Chapter 106. Because of Kirin's constant trouble, and because of the snake's anger, the days of the candidates in the Forest of Death suddenly became difficult. One day later in front of the central tower. Finally we're here. It's too difficult. Why is the Chunin exam so difficult? When they saw the central tower, the rock Crypsis ninjas were moved to tears. Bah! Purple Earth spat out the grass seed in his mouth, his eyes were full of anger. Bastard, if you don't kill, don't let me see you again. Although he said that, his voice was inevitably mixed with a trace of fear. That bastard is too strong. If it weren't for his strength and the fact that he gathered his men in advance, he might have been killed this time. But even so, 5 of his 33 rock Crypsis ninjas were seriously injured. 45 people, only 39 were found. 6 were eaten by all snakes and 5 were seriously injured if you don't kill. Purple Earth's face collapsed. This was something he couldn't imagine before the exam. It's just a selection exam, and almost half of the rock Crypsis ninjas were lost. Purple Earth wiped his face and forced himself to cheer up. Everyone take a rest, then hide and ambush those wood-leaf ninjas according to the original plan. We must let them understand our pain. Hearing what he said, the rock Crypsis ninjas around him shouted with emotion. Yes, it's all Woodleaf's fault. Let them feel the pain, experience the pain, and accept the pain. However, amidst these indignant voices, a question that was not very harmonious suddenly rang out. But what if we ambush that Shimizu Garashi ninjas? Purple Earth pointed to the tower behind him. With that bet, shouldn't they be in the tower? The ninja shook his head in confusion. Purple Earth boss, I didn't sense Shimizu Garashi's chakra in the tower. Purple Earth's eyes widened, and he hurriedly stepped forward to press on his shoulder. Are you telling the truth? The ninja who spoke nodded. After all, I'm a perception ninja, so I can still perceive things from this distance. That can't be. It only took me a day to gather people from everywhere. Z2 muttered to himself. His eyes became brighter and brighter. Could it be that he isn't as powerful as we thought? At this time, a ninja wearing glasses said timidly, Purple Earth boss, there's something that I haven't dared to tell you. Purple Earth frowned. What is it? The ninja with glasses recalled, it's like this, before we met you, we met all snakes once. Could it be that you led all snakes here? Purple Earth was angry and was about to curse, but after thinking about it, he held back. The 3 of us were scared out of our wits. We hid in the bushes and didn't move. But at that moment, Clearwater Shushi and his teammates appeared across from the Snake Dowager. Purple Earth was overjoyed. Could it be that the 3 of them were eaten? I was wondering why they didn't arrive at this time. Just when the rock Crypsis ninjas were overjoyed, the ninja with glasses said indignantly, it's not like that at all. The big snake closed its eyes and pretended not to see them and just let the 3 of them pass. As soon as his voice fell, the rock Crypsis ninjas suddenly exploded. Shady, it's definitely shady. I should have known that big snake is Woodleaf's psychic beast, it definitely wouldn't attack Woodleaf's ninjas. Purple Earth suddenly realized. No wonder he was so calm in the examination room, it turns out that he cheated. Thinking of this, a burst of anger from being fooled surged in his heart. Damn it, a trash ninja who only knows how to cheat, he actually made me think that he was the trash. Purple Earth gritted his teeth and cursed. When he thought of his cowardice at that time, he wanted to go back in time and beat himself up. Purple Earth boss, should we go out now and expose Woodleaf's shady dealings? A rock Crypsis ninja asked. What's the use of that? It won't hurt at all. Purple Earth snorted discontentedly. If we're going to do it, we'll do it thoroughly. Purple Earth boss, what do you mean? Woodleaf spent so much effort to create momentum for their team, it must be to push out Asma. That Shimizu Garashi might just be a distraction for him. The rock Crypsis ninjas suddenly realized. So that's the case, no wonder something as ridiculous as a lower ninja killing a Jounin can happen. Maybe there were more than 10 Woodleaf Jounins around at that time, secretly lying in ambush. Sandame Naruto is indeed despicable and sinister. He actually used our rock Crypsis Jounin to pave the way for his son. He even deliberately used the so-called strongest genius to share the burden of his son. Yeah, maybe he even let that Shimizu Garashi deliberately lose to his son in the battle. Fortunately, we have Purple Earth boss's wisdom is unparalleled. He saw through their scheme at a glance. Purple Earth nodded contentedly. It doesn't matter how many Woodleaf Jounins we kill, the key to hurting Woodleaf is to kill that Shimizu. No, Asma's team. Our rock Crypsis ninja was still a little hesitant. But didn't Magic Leech Sama say? Purple Earth waved his hand carelessly. Magic Leech Sama was also deceived by Woodleaf. Listen to me, the other Woodleaf ninjas don't ambush so as not to expose our whereabouts, wait for Asma's team to appear, then we'll kill them. At the same time in the central tower, Yuki was puffing her cheeks. This is too much, they actually ignored our agreement. In order to win this bet, they passed through the forest of death as fast as they could. 91 minutes and 37 seconds, directly breaking Woodleaf's previous record of 4 hours. Then she just sat there and waited. She waited and waited. A day passed, even that San Crypsis guy arrived, but the opponent she imagined still didn't appear. Samui rolled her eyes. Isn't it just a guy who doesn't live up to his name? What's there to care about? Sabina, who was also her teammate, smiled with a little bit of infatuation. You don't understand, even if he's a vase, he's still a perfect vase. Yuki looked at them with a strange expression. You don't really think that he's weak, right? I didn't say that he's weak, it's just that his strength doesn't match his fame. Samui curled her lips. This kind of man isn't cool at all. Yuki shook her head slightly with a dignified expression. You're wrong, even Big Cat said that the man has an aura that it's afraid of. What? The two were shocked, then hurriedly asked, is he also a Jinchuriki? Yuki bit her finger and whispered, I don't think so, he does have the aura of a tailed beast but it's very faint. The fear that Big Cat mentioned is actually referring to his soul. Samui and Sabina's eyes were full of horror. He wasn't a Jinchuriki, but he could make a tailed beast fear him. This was even more terrifying. Moreover, according to legend, wasn't Nibi a mythical beast that fed on souls? How strong would a soul that even Nibi was afraid of be? Yuki waved her small fist. Anyway, I'll let him know the consequences of underestimating the agreement. Chapter 107. At the same time, beside a small river, a strange thick fog shrouded the area, and from time to time screams of horror and despair could be heard. Don't come over, don't come over. Devil, this guy is a devil. If you don't kill stood quietly on the river looking at the ugly performance of the three shinobis in the thick fog. His eyes were indifferent, incompetent wastes like you can only be used as bait. Scream more miserably. Zabuza's toes gently tapped on the surface of the river, like a ghost floating forward. But just as he was about to wave his sword, a wave of water suddenly shot in from outside the fog. Coming? If you don't kill's eyes moved slightly and he dodged to the side. The next moment, 3 shinobis dressed as Hidden Rain came in. Standing in the middle of the 3, the shinobi said, it's just an escape test, there's no need to kill people, right? If you don't kill squinted his eyes and looked at them, then he smiled. Interesting, in addition to that guy, there is someone else who wants to meddle in other people's business. That guy? The shinobis was a little surprised. You mean, in addition to us, there is someone else who wants to save the ninjas of other villages? If you don't kill put away his sword, you should have heard of his name, Woodleaf Shimizu Garashi. The shinobis nodded, then he wondered, but didn't he have a bet? With his fame, this forest of death shouldn't be able to trap him, right? If you don't kill smiled, of course this forest of death won't be able to trap him, it's the meaningless goodwill that is trapping him. At this time, one of the shinobis stood up while holding his chest. I understand you deliberately injured us so that we can ask him for help. No wonder the shinobis from Tang village warned us to be careful of you. If you don't kill smiled contemptuously, that guy is indeed very strong, I almost have no power to fight back in front of him, but so what if he is strong? I only used some trash to hold him back and even made him fall into my trap. Several shinobis couldn't help but widen their eyes. In their opinion, Zabuza was already ridiculously strong, but now Zabuza was saying that he couldn't even fight back in front of Shimizu Shushi. It was hard to imagine how strong that Woodleaf genius was. The Hidden Rain trio were also surprised, but they were surprised that in this cruel and indifferent world, there were ninjas who held the same belief of peace as them. Just as the 3 of them were slightly distracted, if you don't kill suddenly moved. He used water body flicker and rushed to the weakest point of the enemy's formation. He could feel that the strength of these 3 people was not weak. In a situation of 1 against 3, he naturally had to use some tricks. Even if the other party was just a blind person. However, the blind Yu-In reacted at an extremely fast speed. Earth release, Earth Dragon Bullet. A huge Earth Dragon formed in an instant and sprayed more than a dozen giant mud bullets at if you don't kill. What's with this chakra? The amount is simply amazing. Also, how can this blind man's perception be so sharp? If you don't kill's pupils shrank sharply, he didn't have time to make any hand seals, he could only rely on his footwork to move flexibly between the mud bullets. But before he could get close to the other party, he saw the blind man hit him with another vacuum jutsu. If you don't kill couldn't move forward, he had to stop and hurriedly jumped behind. Another genius who can make me feel pressure. If you don't kill's eyes flashed with excitement. This Chunin exam was really the right choice. First, leave some marks for the other two so as not to hinder my actions. Thinking of this, Zabuza quickly formed a hand seal, and a water dragon technique rushed towards the purple-haired female ninja among the three people. Whoosh! The purple-haired woman dodged the attack by turning into pieces of paper. Then the falling pieces of paper were like sharp blades, shooting toward him at an extremely fast speed. It wasn't over yet. The leader ninja, who was ignored by him before, also seized the opportunity to use his water cannon. If you don't kill didn't have time to dodge, he was directly blown away by the water cannon. Like a stone skipping on water, it bounced up and down on the river a few times before falling onto the surface of the river with a "pa" sound. No, it's not just the blind man, these three people are very strong. Are you kidding me? When did Hidden Rain have such powerful genin? If you don't kill got up awkwardly, his eyes were full of disbelief. Although these three people looked a few years older than him, he was a genius of Kirin, and these three guys were just from Hidden Rain. What's more, he suspected that these three people were hiding some of their strength. This Chunin exam is getting more and more interesting, just you wait, I will be back. After saying those words, if you don't kill slowly sank into the water. Seeing this, the leader helplessly sighed. It's really troublesome, exposing our strength may attract attention, but if we don't expose our strength, we can't drive him away. The blind ninja was silent for a moment. Do you want to catch up and kill him? The woman blinked and didn't raise any objection. If the three of them use their full strength, it's easy to kill the Kirin ninja. The leader shook his head. Forget it, the strength we showed wasn't too much. On the contrary, if we kill him, it's more likely to attract attention. At this time, the three ninjas came over, their eyes were full of twinkling stars. You are so powerful, if you don't kill, you defeated the Peach Land, which is considered very powerful among the 5 great ninja villages. Hidden Rain is worthy of being a shinobi demigod, much more powerful than us. The leader smiled. We only have the advantage of age. By the way, what are you going to do now? The three ninjas looked at each other and said with some lack of confidence, we are injured now and we don't think about whether we can pass the exam or not. However, if we don't get treatment, our injuries may worsen. Although it's embarrassing, we can only go and disturb the genius with Leaf. The leader pondered for a while. You are injured now, it's better to let us escort you there. The three ninjas couldn't believe it. Is this really okay? We are ninjas of Hokage. The leader smiled softly. Why do we have to define boundaries for ourselves? In my opinion, each of us is a part of the shinobi world. There is no barrier that can't be broken. Seeing the sincerity in Kuroto's eyes, the three ninjas felt warm inside. I understand, thank you. On the way, the purple-haired female ninja couldn't help but ask, Yahiko, are you going to look for that with Leaf Ninja? Yahiko nodded excitedly. Conan, Nagato, don't you think he is very similar to us? Nagato smiled softly. Are you going to invite him to join our organization? Hearing his question, Yahiko was a little depressed. No, although our purpose is for peace from the standpoint of those big countries, we are hindering their interests. Before we accumulate enough strength, we can't expose our ideas to those big countries, even if the other party holds the same ideals as us. But as he said, his serious tone suddenly became cheerful, and he winked at the two ninjas. However, it's still okay to observe in advance. Chapter 108. With the help of Nagato's powerful perception ability, the group soon arrived at a camp. Here, candidates from various villages were sitting together, laughing and talking, and there was a wonderful sense of harmony. Seeing this scene, Conan couldn't help but ask, so many of them are gathered together, aren't they afraid of being discovered by all snakes? A Hoshi ninja smiled and said, I can probably understand their thoughts. Weak ninjas like us, once we are discovered by all snakes, we have no ability to escape. On the contrary, in this case we have the possibility of survival if we escape separately. Another Hoshi ninja added, the shinobi we met before also mentioned the situation here. Maybe because it's relatively hidden, all snakes haven't attacked this place even once. Without considering passing the exam, this place can actually be regarded as a refuge in the forest. Yahiko and the other two were a little moved in their hearts. The scene of peace between the villages they were looking for actually appeared in the Chunin exam. At this time, a ninja in one of the areas said loudly, I'm just a passerby, I didn't believe that there would be any difference between the ninjas of those big countries. Until today, I found that Woodleaf is different from other villages. I see respect in them, I see the possibility of getting along with them as equals. As if it triggered a chain reaction, a group of ninjas echoed. Wuwei is right, only Woodleaf is our light. Especially Kirin, they don't see us as human beings at all. In their eyes, we are just pigs to be slaughtered at will. Speaking of which, Garashi-sama gave up the bet for us in case we make Woodleaf lose face. Will the big people in Woodleaf punish him for this? Then can we let the village come forward to plead for mercy? It's useless, we are just some genin. What we say is not valued at all, and the village won't change its position because of us. Yeah, we are just some trash hiding in the corner, we don't even dare to continue the exam. Yahiko strode out just as the atmosphere in the room gradually became gloomy. Why do you look down on yourself like this? Everyone has limitless possibilities. Right now, it's only because you haven't found your place yet. Believe in yourself, change yourself, unite all your strength, and there will be a day when this world will tremble because of us. Hearing his impassioned speech, the blood of the people present immediately began to boil. That's right, we have our own uses too. Let the world hear our voices. However, after the excitement, everyone came to their senses. Wait, big brother, who are you? Yahiko laughed awkwardly and gave a thumbs up. I'm just a passerby. Behind him, the three shinobi's eyes had evolved from worship to fanaticism. Hearing this, they hurriedly came forward to explain. The three of us were injured by Kirin's if you don't kill. It was the seniors from Hidden Rain who saved us and escorted us here. Hearing if you don't kill, the group of patients was instantly filled with righteous indignation. It's that damn bastard again. I curse him that he can't find a woman in the future. He can actually save people from if you don't kill, that's amazing. They are injured, hurry up and call Garashi-sama. On the other side, in a small tent that was specially built for the patients to rest, Asuma sat upright, smiled and nodded from time to time. Seeing this, Kurenai couldn't help but ask. Don't you think what they said is a little shameful? Asuma shook his head firmly. Our Woodleaf is so good. It's just a pity, why didn't anyone mention me? Kurenai glanced at him. You're not a medical ninja, is it difficult to sit here and rest? Asuma felt wronged. But the person who made the bet is me, if I lose I have to apologize. Kurenai suddenly said, yes, the person who made the bet is you. This time Asuma felt even more wronged. Garashi sat quietly with his eyes slightly narrowed. Sure enough, it's them because they sensed the aura of war, they deliberately sneaked into the Chunin exam and took this opportunity to inquire about information? Garashi wasn't too surprised by this. After all, the three of them are rare idealists in this world. At this time, Yahiko and his group of 6 also came over. Garashi-sama, please treat us. The 3 Hoshi ninjas were a little restrained. In their view, Garashi is talented and strong, and he is the disciple of the Sannin. He is destined to become a big figure in Woodleaf, and they may be just ordinary ninjas in a small ninja village for the rest of their lives. Although they are all genin now, their identity is already different from each other. Don't be nervous, I will treat you. Garashi's tone was gentle, and there seemed to be a different kind of power in his voice, making the 3 of them calm down. Chakra with a little fluorescent light sprinkled on the 3 of them, warm and peaceful, as if they were soaked in a hot spring, making them almost fall asleep. Well, it's about time to rest. The 3 of them woke up when they heard the voice, and their eyes were full of disbelief. They let down all their guard in front of a stranger, which is simply unimaginable for ninjas. Yahiko and the other 2 were stunned. Good, it didn't even take a minute, this medical skill is really amazing. Garashi smiled and accepted the praise. I only have medical skills that are barely commendable. Yahiko and the others naturally didn't believe Garashi's modesty. After all, if you don't kill claimed that he didn't even have the power to fight back in front of him. If such strength isn't commendable, then the others can only be said to be trash. Looking at Garashi, Yahiko suddenly asked, do you know that if you don't kill deliberately only injured you and didn't kill you in order to consume your chakra? Garashi said with a smile while wrapping bandages on the 3 of them, if I can't even see this, I don't need to be a ninja. Conan on the side was surprised. You know? Then aren't you worried that he will take the opportunity to sneak attack you? Garashi chuckled softly, there are some things that if you don't do because you are afraid, the world will lose a lot of its glory. Yahiko clapped his hands and said excitedly, yes, there are some things that have to be done, or it's because others don't dare to do it that we have to stand up bravely. Next to them Asuma, who was ignored again and again, couldn't help but say, actually, I think you are thinking too much. You don't really think that Garashi can't beat if you don't kill after consuming most of his chakra, right? Instantly there was an awkward silence. Chapter 109. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If you don't kill is also very strong, and in the case of a sneak attack, I don't have absolute confidence. Asuma's eyes flashed with a witty light. If you don't have absolute confidence, how much is it? Garashi wasn't very sure. About 97%? Asma looked at Yahiko provocatively. No one knows Garashi better than me. Yahiko laughed twice and said dryly, haha, there is always a risk. Garashi shook his head slightly and suddenly hesitantly looked at Nagato. Sorry to bother you, but is your hair born like this? Nagato was startled. Hearing Garashi's question, he slowly nodded and asked, yes, what's the problem? Sorry, because of the hair. Garashi said apologetically, I secretly felt your chakra. Although it's not clear why Garashi suddenly said this, Yahiko and the others suddenly became nervous. Is it Nagato's eyes? They are not novices now. Naturally they know the legend of the three major dojutsu in the ninja world. If the Rinnegan is exposed, it's definitely not a good thing for Nagato. Just when they were nervous, they heard Garashi said, the iconic red hair and the powerful chakra. Are you a descendant of the Uzumaki clan? Konan Yahiko was at a loss. What kind of development is this? Nagato hesitated and shook his head. I don't know. Garashi suddenly understood. I understand, maybe your family didn't tell you. After all, after the Uzumaki clan was exterminated, there are still many forces coveting and chasing the survivors of this clan. Uzumaki clan? Nagato muttered to himself. He also heard of this clan that has disappeared in the ninja world. Without waiting for anyone to ask, Garashi took the initiative to explain. The reason why I know these characteristics is that I have a sister who is a survivor of the Uzumaki clan. Garashi said with a happy smile. If she knows that there are survivors of the Uzumaki clan, she will be very happy. Great, Nagato, you still have people. Yahiko and Konan subconsciously chose to believe, and they were excited. They were happy for Nagato and grateful to Garashi. After this exam, would you like to come with me to meet my sister? Shushi asked, taking advantage of the opportunity to extend an invitation. Nagato looked a little hesitant, but Yahiko and Konan were already urging, hurry up and say yes, maybe you're close relatives. Among those clans, almost all the clans have relatives, the only difference is close and distant. Nagato bit his lips and finally shook his head. It's not convenient for me to meet her now. Next time, I will definitely do it next time. He also has his own worries. What if his sister thinks that his eyes are blind and wants to care about his eyes, and as a result, the Rinnegan is exposed? Moreover, listening to Garashi, the chakra of the Uzumaki clan is very powerful. Maybe the other party can perceive the strangeness of his eyes. In any case, that sister is now with Leaf's people, who can guarantee that the nominal blood relationship will be more important than the actual interests. He doesn't dare to gamble, at least he doesn't dare to gamble with the safety of Yahiko and Konan. Hearing him say this, Konan Yahiko was anxious. Nagato, aren't you most eager to have relatives? Nagato smiled softly. Relatives? I already have them. Konan Yahiko was stunned and also calmed down. Yes, we are all your family. It seems that you have your own concerns, but forget it. Garashi sighed regretfully but soon smiled freely. As long as she knows that you have such a good companion, Shina Kushina sister should be very happy. Except for Konan Yahiko and Jiraiya, sensei, this is the first time that Nagato received such care. He couldn't help but bow and thank him. Thank you for helping me like this. Garashi took the initiative to send an invitation. You are Shina Kushina sister's clansman, so you are my friend. And I can see that you are all very good people. Yahiko laughed heartily. You are also a very good person. Well, then we are friends. A day later, in front of the central tower. Because they weren't sure where Asma's team would come from, the 28 rock Crypsis genin who were still able to move were evenly distributed on the ring outside the central tower. Too slow, what are those bastards doing? Purple Earth tried to drive away the surrounding mosquitoes. After hiding in the bushes for a day, he felt like he was about to be sucked dry. Someone else is coming? Purple Earth peeked, and with just a glance, he felt like his scalp was about to explode. Why is it if you don't kill that bastard again? Damn it, you could have passed the exam long ago, but you stayed and bullied us newbies during the exam. Z2's face was full of anger, but he still lowered his raised but a little. But what is this guy doing? Seeing if you don't kill, walking back and forth in the forest, almost touching the traps he set several times, Purple Earth muttered, then his eyes widened. He is also setting up traps? But, with his strength, why would he need to set up traps to deal with others? Purple Earth was puzzled. Seeing that if you don't kill's trap was about to be completed, he quickly retracted his head and didn't dare to look again. What a pity, if it weren't for that Asma, I could have ambushed him and blown him to pieces with a wave of explosions. Purple Earth was full of malicious imagination. At this moment, Purple Earth felt something hard poking his butt. Didn't I tell you not to run around? Purple Earth looked back in dissatisfaction, just in time to see if you don't kill's eyes without any color. The thing poking him was if you don't kill short knife. Seeing the short knife, Purple Earth instantly broke out in cold sweat. What a coincidence. If you don't kill's face was a little dark. His attention was completely focused on the outside world, and he didn't notice that there was someone here, so he hid and retreated, bumping into someone. If it wasn't for the fact that the other party was also distracted, he might have died for no reason. Thinking of this, if you don't kill's right hand slowly reached for the short knife at his waist. Purple Earth swallowed hard. Calm down, calm down. Suddenly if you don't kill turned his head to look outside. Garashi and the other two were talking and laughing as they walked over from afar. Seeing this, if you don't kill silently retracted his right hand, gave him a warning look and then focused on the outside world. Few were saved. Purple Earth let out a long sigh of relief. Only then did he pay attention to the outside world. Jim? It's them. Purple Earth's eyes widened, and just as he was about to tear a talisman and call out his 27 brothers who were lying in ambush, he rolled his eyes and pondered, could it be that if you don't kill this bastard is also dealing with them? Let them fight among themselves first. This time I, Rock Crypsis, am the biggest winner. Chapter 110. Hey Shushi, do you think we've completed the old man's mission? Asuma whispered to Shushi as they walked. How can it be that easy? Shushi shook his head. As they said themselves, the position of those small countries won't change because of these genin. Hearing him say this, Asuma was a little depressed. Then aren't we working in vain? On the side, Red gently touched her delicate chin. I think this is mainly to convey our attitude, right? There are many factors that determine a country's political stance. The most important ones are the military strength and economy displayed by the other party. Naturally, Hokage-sama will consider these two factors. Although the image and attitude we convey won't play a decisive role, it can still influence their inclination under the same circumstances. That's right. Natsuya nodded slightly. Asuma nodded thoughtfully. Garashi added with a smile, in addition, what we can do is to show our potential and let those small countries know that the future will inevitably belong to us. Wood Leaf. Very good, then let's win this Chunin exam. Asuma said confidently. Suddenly there was a violent explosion around them. The mountain shook, and the heat wave was so loud that Asuma and Red were a little distracted. Opportunity. If you don't kill rushed up at the fastest speed, and on the way he didn't forget to make 2 water clones. He didn't expect those detonation tags to hurt the other party. As long as they can attract their attention for a moment, it's enough. His body first separated the 3 with a big waterfall technique, and the 2 water clones took advantage of Asuma and Red's distraction to use the water prison technique. Garashi jumped and stepped on a tree to avoid the attack. Water prison technique? If you don't kill's eyes were cold, in just 1 minute they will suffocate to death in the water prison. If you want to save them, you must defeat me within 1 minute. Even if Garashi consumed a lot of chakra in advance, he still didn't feel safe, so he came up with this method. On the one hand, the threat of the 2 people will be removed, and on the other hand, it will disturb Garashi's mind and make him make mistakes in his impatient state. As for defeating him in 1 minute? If you don't kill's view, unless Garashi can enter the same state as last time without any preparation. Otherwise he will definitely win. In the distance, Z2's heart was filled with horror. Creating 2 water clones to create a water prison, and the main body can still use such a powerful A-class ninjutsu. This guy is simply a monster. Even when he chased us last time, he was just playing around and didn't use his strength at all. While he was shocked, he also realized that something was wrong. Wait a minute, according to my analysis, shouldn't that Clearwater mouthwash be a fake? In the forest. Since you are so eager to die, then I have to satisfy your request. Garashi's eyes were calm. He took out a shuriken from the tool bag and threw it at if you don't kill. Throwing jutsu? Is your chakra so low that you can't even use ninjutsu? If you don't kill sneered, all the shurikens were shot down. The fingertips of Shuishi's right hand tapped lightly, as if plucking the strings in the void, causing all the shurikens standing on the ground to fly up and attack Zabuza with the momentum of a storm. At the same time, his left hand began to make one-handed seals. In the next moment, 10 shadow clones stood beside Garashi. If you don't kill also noticed this scene, but he didn't care. He was surprised that Garashi still had chakra. Flying Thunder God. All the Garashi disappeared, and then if you don't kill in disbelief, appeared in the position of the shurikens. Garashi, Garashi, Garashi Garashi, if you don't kill, Garashi Garashi, Garashi, Garashi in this case he had no time to react, he could only watch all the Garashi stabbing him with their kunai. In the blink of an eye, if you don't kill was stabbed like a hedgehog. Good assassination. If I also know, maybe I can create the most perfect assassination. If you don't kill, whispered to himself, then the light in his eyes dimmed. What a strong heart. Garashi shook his head slightly. It's a pity, seeing if you don't kill's miserable death. Purple Earth was so scared that he covered his mouth and nose tightly. It only took a few seconds to kill. If you don't kill, are you kidding me? Why did I take the Chunin exam with such a monster? Thinking of this, Purple Earth was scared. Fortunately, if you don't kill, this fool helped me find the way, otherwise I would have died this time. Wait, it seems like the sound of the detonation charm. They didn't think it was me. Although the battle seemed a bit complicated, in fact, from if you don't kill detonating the detonation charm to being killed by Garashi, it added up to less than 10 seconds. During this time, rock crypsis who were lying in ambush rushed over. Kill them, let Woodleaf feel pain. Purple Earth, Dage, remember to leave one for us. A group of rock crypsis heard the sound of the detonation charm and rushed over. However, there was no Purple Earth in front of them, only Garashi and a corpse on the ground. Well, why does that person look a bit like if you don't kill? Haha, if you don't kill that monster, how could it be? It seems to be him. Rock crypsis who were waving their kunai froze, looking at the calm Garashi in front of them. There was an inexplicable chill in their hearts. Why do I feel that the situation is a bit wrong? Also, what about Purple Earth, Dage? At the same time, Asma and Kurenai came out of the broken water prison. Damn it, if you don't kill, that bastard plotted against us. Asma said angrily. I'm so angry, Kurenai said concisely. Then the two of them looked at the group of rock crypsis in a bad mood. Speaking of which, are you guys in cahoots with if you don't kill? Just now you said you were going to kill us. The group of rock crypsis looked embarrassed and slowly retreated. I think there might be some misunderstanding. Ha ha ha, we were just joking. They were retreating in fear, but at this moment, at the back of the tower, the few rock crypsis who were the furthest away finally rushed over. Kill all Woodleaf ninjas. Huh. Why is there no movement from the detonation charm? Watch me. Hearing these voices, the group of rock crypsis ninjas turned pale. Before they could stop it, the explosion that had subsided before once again spread toward Woodleaf and the other two. They want to plot against us again. Asma and Kurenai were annoyed. They no longer hesitated and directly started the slaughter. Soon the rock crypsis ninjas who rushed out were wiped out. With such strength they still want to ambush us? Asma said disdainfully, then reacted, by the way, Garashi, did we miss anyone? Purple Earth, who had been hiding and didn't dare to come out, suddenly felt nervous. After all, they came to Konoha to take the Chunin exam. Let's give them some face. Shushi smiled and looked in a certain direction, thinking, are they scared out of their wits? This kind of fear would cause him to not even think of resisting my illusions. This kind of person may be more valuable alive. Asma and Kurenai naturally didn't object and followed Garashi to the tower. Purple Earth, who was hiding behind the bushes, was immediately full of fear. Yes, I killed them when we returned to Rock Crypsis. No, if you don't kill them, it was Woodleaf who killed them. It has nothing to do with me, it has nothing to do with me. Chapter 111. Central Tower. The other teams that cleared the tower have already gone back to rest. Only Yunin and some other teams from smaller villages are still waiting. Unforgivable, unforgivable. Yujito Rin puffed up her cheeks and muttered to herself. Sabina, who just came back from walking around the tower, elbowed Samui and asked, is she always like this? Samui nodded helplessly. She's so angry that she's about to meow. Sabina's eyes lit up. Yuki can meow? I want to hear it. Seeing Sabina's eager eyes, Samui reminded her, don't provoke an angry cat or she'll bite you. Sabina retracted her right hand. It's okay if she's just a kitten, but if she's bitten by the big cat in her body, I'll die. At this time, the door of the tower was pushed open. As the bright sunlight shone on the ground, a gloomy voice could be heard. What bad luck, I was blocked by the enemy before I entered the tower, and now I'm blocked by the creditor. Seeing Yuki jump down from the railing and walk towards him angrily, Asma helplessly spread out his hands. Little sister, you don't have to be in such a hurry to find me. Before he could finish his words, Yuki walked past him. Asuma only felt a gust of cold wind blowing around him. You scoundrel, you clearly said that we'll compete to see who can reach the central tower first. Asma came over and said weakly, I said it, don't you remember? I was the one who mocked you. Yuki looked at him. Does defeating you mean that Yunin's genin is stronger than Woodleaf? Asma wanted to say something but hesitated and finally lowered his head. I don't think so. Yuki let out a contemptuous sneer and didn't mock him. She just looked at Garashi again. Or, you know that you can't beat me, so you deliberately waited until the end to let others think that you're generous enough to admit defeat. Garashi gently moved his bangs on his forehead. Sorry, there was a little accident during the Chunin exam. Samui looked at Yuki and deliberately said, Accident? What kind of accident can make you stay until now? Don't tell me that you've been lost until now? Hearing their aggressive tone, a group of people who were waiting in the distance were unhappy. What do you know? Garashi-sama stayed in there to save us. That's right. If it weren't for the fact that he had to save irrelevant people like us, Lord Shushi would have passed the exam in 100 minutes. Idiot, she only took 91 minutes. What? I accidentally let my mouth slip just now. It should be 100 seconds. Idiot. How can it be so exaggerated? In this chaotic atmosphere, Yuki and the other two were speechless for a while, but they roughly understood what was going on. If you don't kill, is it Kirin's peach field? Samui obviously also heard about if you don't kill. Garashi sighed helplessly, that's him. So that's the case. Yuki nodded and suddenly her eyes lit up. So, who won in the end? Obviously she didn't think about the life and death aspect. In the case of a small gap in strength, it's easy to determine the winner, but it's difficult to determine life and death. Asma raised his eyebrows as if to take revenge Yuki for underestimating him. If you don't kill, that guy wanted to exhaust Garashi's chakra and even ambushed us. However, when he actually faced Garashi, Asma purposely dragged out his words, and when he saw Yuki's face turn black, he said with satisfaction, he died in less than 10 seconds. What? If you don't kill was killed? Samui and Sabina exclaimed in unison. That was Kirin's card, and it was said that she had killed a special jonin like Woodleaf. Even if there was a certain amount of exaggeration, she was definitely much stronger than them. Moreover, the fear of the surrounding victims also proved this point. However, such an expert had died under the circumstances of taking the initiative to launch a sneak attack. Furthermore, he had been killed within 10 seconds. Looking at Garashi's gentle and elegant face, the two inexplicably had a kind of unreal feeling. So strong. Yuki clenched her small fists. She also felt the pressure, but more than that, she was excited. Only by defeating such an opponent can we prove that our Yunin is stronger than Woodleaf. Although in the opinion of most Yunin ninjas, they have already surpassed Woodleaf, in order to gain the recognition of other villages, they still have to surpass Woodleaf in all aspects. Thinking of this, Yuki proudly turned around and left. This time it doesn't count, I will defeat you in the official tournament. Outside. Although the Chunin exam was in full swing, not many people in the 5 great ninja villages were paying attention to it. On the one hand, the second round of the exam will last for 3 days. The team leaders have their own tasks, so naturally they can't spend too much energy on it. On the other hand, as one of the 5 great ninja villages, they have enough confidence in their ninjas. Except for some unlucky candidates, it's reasonable for most of them to pass. At this moment in the Rock Crypsis's hotel. Damn it, I was fooled by them. Magic Leech gritted his teeth and cursed. He didn't expect that Woodleaf didn't even prepare for battle before. If he could seize the opportunity at that time, maybe he would have bitten off a piece of fat meat from Woodleaf's body. Forget it, the one who should be more depressed than us is Cloud Village. They have been coveting Woodleaf for a long time. Magic Leech knew that happiness is based on other people's pain, so he felt a lot better. At this time the door was knocked heavily twice. Come in, the door is unlocked. A Rock Crypsis Chunin came in with a sad face. Monolith, what can I do for you? Monolith organized her words and said carefully, Magic Leech, Sama, our people have come out. Magic Leech smiled. It's so late, there should be a lot of Woodleaf's people in ambush, right? This I haven't asked yet. Then why are you in a hurry to find me? Monolith said tentatively, Magic Leech, Sama, don't be angry with what I'm about to say. Magic Leech frowned slightly, guessing that there may be a mistake. I'm a Jonin, I won't be angry with a Chunin exam. 6 people were seriously injured by Kirin's if you don't kill. Because they didn't get treatment in time, they may not be able to be ninjas in the future. Kirin's if you don't kill? Sooner or later we will settle this with them. The Demon Leech's face was cold as he looked at the boulder. Did everyone else pass the Chunin exam? Monolith swallowed her saliva. Purple Earth passed the exam. It's normal for him to pass with his strength. Magic Leech asked impatiently. I asked you to say the others. Gone? What? Monolith whispered. The others are all dead. Magic Leech's eyes widened, and his face was hideous as if he was wearing a mask of pain. Ah, I don't believe it. Magic Leech-sama, cheer up. Chapter 112. At night in the rock crypt's room. Magic Leech looked at Purple Earth with a gloomy expression. Tell me what the hell is going on? Purple Earth gathered his emotions and said angrily, it's all because of if you don't kill. Magic Leech frowned. If you don't kill? Purple Earth nodded hard. We were lying in ambush in front of the central tower, but if you don't kill came to ambush us. I was worried that he would hunt us down like before, but he said that it was no longer necessary. He was only hunting us down to lure Shimizu Garashi to heal the others. Then he forced us to ambush Shimizu Garashi with him. I still remember your warning, Master Magic Leech. Of course I didn't want to, but he threatened to kill the others if I didn't agree. Purple Earth said and lowered his head in shame. We were no match for him at all. In the end we could only listen to his threats. Magic Leech was not too surprised by this. He had already learned from the 6 seriously injured genin that if you don't kill was indeed too strong. All of them combined were no match for him. Purple Earth continued, when I was lying in ambush I thought about it again. Shimizu Garashi is our enemy. If you don't kill is not a good person either. Maybe this was a good opportunity for them to bite each other. So, I deliberately let the others rush out a few seconds after they started fighting. This way we could harass them at the edge, preserve our strength and control the situation at any time. When they appeared, if you don't kill rushed out and had 2 water clones use water prison jutsu to suppress Shimizu Garashi's teammates. He also said that the 2 would suffocate within a minute. I wanted to use this to disturb their mentality. Magic Leech nodded slightly. From his perspective, if you don't kill was indeed much stronger than the genin of rock crypsis. However, something terrible happened. Purple Earth's face turned pale as he shuddered. It only took a few seconds. If you don't kill you'll be dead. What did you say? If you don't kill you get killed? Or within a few seconds? Magic Leech couldn't believe it. If you don't kill is stronger than most chunin. Even he can't guarantee that he can kill him in a few seconds. He's too strong. With such strength he shouldn't be a genin. Purple Earth shouted in fear, there was too little time. Everyone rushed out before they could react and I was scared. It's me. I deserted. Purple Earth wasn't worried that someone would expose him. He was the only one who knew the specific process. The 6 surviving rock crypsists didn't participate in the follow-up discussion because they were seriously injured. They didn't know what kind of role he played in it. He didn't want to remove himself from the picture. He just wanted to change his identity from being the leader to being coerced. For this reason, he didn't even intend to hide the fact that he was a deserter. Magic Leech didn't think too much about it. If the opponent was really that strong, then Purple Earth would only be sending one more person to die. Magic Leech calmed down and asked again, how did he kill if you don't kill? Purple Earth was confused. I don't know. I just saw him and his clone teleport next to if you don't kill. If you don't kill couldn't react in time, he stabbed you with a dozen kunai. I understand it's the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Magic Leech gritted his teeth. No wonder that old man Naruto was willing to take out such a good thing. It turns out that in his eyes, the first place has already been determined. He can learn this super difficult S-class ninjutsu at the age of 10. Damn it, why don't we have such a genius in rock crypsis? Hearing Magic Leech's words, Purple Earth was relieved and shocked. I can't even use a B-class ninjutsu. If you don't kill can easily use an A-class ninjutsu, and Shimizu Garashi can even use an S-class ninjutsu freely. Is this the world of geniuses? Suppressing the shock in his heart, Magic Leech said, about the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, don't tell anyone. Purple Earth asked blankly, don't tell anyone? Magic Leech coldly snorted, our rock crypsis suffered such a big loss, we can't let other villages have an easy time. As for Woodleaf, let them be in the limelight. The more popular they are now, the more miserable they will be when the war starts. Purple Earth's face was a bit strange, as if Woodleaf won't be in the limelight. In the previous 2 Shinobi World Wars, which time didn't Woodleaf fight 1 against 3, or even 1 against 4? They're probably used to being targeted. After asking Purple Earth, Magic Leech looked coldly at Wu Wei who was standing quietly next to him. I heard that you said a lot of good things about Woodleaf in the Chunin exam? Wu Wei admitted, indeed. Magic Leech squinted his eyes, can't wait to change sides? Wu Wei clenched his fists with hatred. You know my hatred for Woodleaf. They usually receive so many benefits from Kusanagi, but when the war broke out they never thought about us. I only feel disgusted by them. Magic Leech nodded slightly. If I didn't know this, I wouldn't let you explain. Wu Wei took a deep breath. First of all, with their actions in this Chunin exam, even if I didn't cheer for them, the respect they received wouldn't change much. Secondly, what's the use of some gratitude? Magic Leech sneered. In the dialogue between countries, only interests are the most real. Not to mention some gratitude, even the thoughts of a Jonin won't have any effect. So, I'm just taking this opportunity to show them goodwill. Wu Wei seriously analyzed. In their view, Rock Crypsis lost so many ninjas, but I, a Kusanagi, survived. Even if they don't retaliate, they will most likely be suppressed. How could they know that Tsuchikage-sama's heart is so broad? For Wu Wei's flattery, Magic Leech accepted it all. Rock Crypsis doesn't have so many geniuses, we rely on unity and trust to stand in the ninja world. Unity? What about Kurashiki? Wu Wei thought in his heart, but he still looked convinced. In short, I intend to take this opportunity to show goodwill to Woodleaf. Even if I can't get their support, at least I can't let them have any opinions about me. After all, the situation of Kusanagi has always been the situation of the country, Woodleaf and Rock Crypsis. If Woodleaf objects, it will undoubtedly be much more difficult for me to control the power of Kusanagi. Magic Leech's eyes lit up. Control the Kusanagi? Wu Wei nodded heavily. If I can control the power of Kusanagi, I can make Kusanagi completely join Rock Crypsis. At that time, I really want to see how Woodleaf's face will be. Magic Leech laughed. Well said, if Woodleaf knows that the people they support have joined Rock Crypsis, the scene will be wonderful. But as he spoke, he hesitated. But will they believe it? Wu Wei sneered. Woodleaf's ninjas have always been naive, maybe they will believe it? Anyway, there's no harm in trying. Magic Leech also laughed. If they weren't naive, how could they do such a stupid thing as helping a small country? After laughing for a while, he said seriously, then you should pay attention to reduce contact with us in the future, so as not to let Woodleaf see any flaws. Wu Wei was startled and then he smiled. Of course. Chapter 113. At the same time in Kirin's hotel. Are you kidding me? If you don't kill that guy, how did he die? Pipa Shirzong looked at Chunin in disbelief. Yes, it's the news from Woodleaf, everyone in the central tower heard it. Kirin Chunin carefully replied, moreover, many small ninja villages have protested against us, even the other 4 major ninja villages have a lot of complaints. Pipa Shirzong couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He had already heard about if you don't kill chasing them in the exam from those teams who cleared the instance dungeon in advance. He himself has no objection to the chase. Kirin originally had the idea of suppressing the new strength of other villages. That's nothing, but the problem is, what do you mean by seriously injuring but not killing? Isn't this purely to make Kirin look bad? Now it's even better, he's losing himself. Seeing Pipa Shirzong's gloomy face, Kirin Chunin carefully said, moreover, I heard that if you don't kill was killed in a few seconds under a sneak attack. Hearing this, Pipa Shirzong almost vomited blood. Didn't they come this time to remind the other ninja villages of the horror of Kirin? What is this? Reverse memory? Pipa Shirzong forced himself to calm down. But who is it? With if you don't kill strength, even an ordinary Jonin can't kill him in a few seconds. It's Woodleaf Shimizu Garashi. It's him? Pipa Shirzong's face was cold. He naturally heard of the other party's name, but because of this he felt more and more incredible. How can a genin do this? Water Mist, do you think this is reasonable? Seeing that Pipa Shirzong didn't seem to be as angry as he imagined, Kirin Chunin was secretly relieved and muttered in his heart, it seems that if you don't kill is Juzong-sama's son, it should be a rumor. The same eyebrows, the same sharp teeth, the same cruel and powerful, and even heard that if you don't kill was recognized by Juzong-sama's beheading sword. This also made many people in Kirin spread the rumor that if you don't kill is Juzong-sama's son. Although the age may be a bit wrong, gossip is beyond age. Water Mist, Water Mist. Hearing Pipa Shirzong's dissatisfied voice, Water Mist woke up with a start. It should be quite reasonable. I asked Empress Shomiai and Violet Knight before I came. They said that not long after they started the exam, they met Shimizu Garashi. If you don't kill, ask them not to make a move. They said that they wanted to deal with Shimizu Garashi alone, and then they were knocked out by the other party with 2 slaps. Pipa Shirzong stared. Knocked out by 2 slaps? Water Mist nodded again and again. According to Empress Shomiai, if you don't kill didn't underestimate the other party. He used his silent killing technique from the beginning, but he was still easily defeated by Shimizu Garashi. Pipa Shirzong pondered for a moment. I understand that Shimizu Garashi is likely to be a perception-type ninja, and if you don't kill was too confident in his assassination technique, so he was restrained. Water Mist suddenly realized, no wonder if you don't kill was killed in a sneak attack. It turned out that his actions were already seen through by the other party. Even so, that Shimizu Garashi is terrible enough. Pipa Shirzong was shocked but also depressed. With the amazing talent that Shimizu Garashi showed, if you don't kill could die together with the other party or cause irreparable injuries, then his death would be worth it. But the result was that it didn't have any effect except to make the other party famous. Thinking of this, Pipa Shirzong couldn't help but curse. What a waste, killing people in his own village so hard. But when the Chunin exam came, he didn't kill a single person and he even lost his life. In the hostel where the Sand Crypsis was located, a group of people were angrily denouncing. Shady, it must be shady. That's right, more than half of Woodleaf's people passed the second exam. In order to get a good score, they don't even care about their face. As the leader of the team, Zhong Liang was relatively calm. In his opinion, if Woodleaf really used this method, it would expose their weakness. But when his gaze swept across the crowd, he found that Marky frowned, and seemed to have been silent since he came back. He couldn't help but ask, Marky, do you have a problem? Marky smiled bitterly, I just think that this result may not be Woodleaf's cheating. The other candidates were shocked. It's impossible that they were so lucky that they didn't encounter all snakes, right? Marky shook his head and hesitated. Do you remember the time when all snakes went crazy in the exam? The Sand Crypsis nodded in confusion. They also heard the cry of all snakes, but most of them attributed it to all snakes in heat. After all, it's impossible that all snakes were fighting with someone, right? Marky took a deep breath and said, I happened to be next to them at the time, and I just saw the scene where Shimizu Garashi injured all snakes. When his voice fell, everyone couldn't believe it. Are you kidding? That's all snakes. Even a Jonin can't deal with that kind of monster. Cough, Lord Zhong Liang, don't misunderstand, I'm talking about those useless Jonins who can't even deal with all snakes. The corner of Zhong Liang's mouth twitched. He was really sorry he was such a useless Jonin. Marky continued, I can feel that all snakes' pain and fury was not faked. If it just couldn't deal with Shimizu Garashi with the rumored bad character of all snakes, it should have retaliated against the other Woodleaf ninjas. But the fact is, not only did they not suffer any retaliation, but they also passed the exam by a large margin. Zhong Liang also thought of a possibility and said with a difficult tone, You mean that Shimizu Garashi not only injured all snakes, but also forced it not to deal with the other Woodleaf ninjas? Unlike the high-level arrangement, the candidates are allowed to help each other. Just like in the previous exam, it's not against the rules to collect extra scrolls and give them to the ninjas of the same village. Marky sighed, I can only think of this possibility. Hearing this, the rest of the Sand Crypsis ninjas trembled. It's terrible, why are we taking the exam with such a monster? He should be taking the Jonin exam. What's the point of bullying 11 or 12-year-old children in the Chunin exam? But he seems to be only 10 years old, right? I don't want to listen, I don't want to listen. On the other side, Garashi also found Shina Kushina and told her about Nagato. Kurosawa? Garashi, you mean you met someone suspected to be from the Uzumaki clan in the Chunin exam? Hearing Garashi's words, Shina Kushina couldn't help but wave her arms excitedly. Hurry up, Garashi, take me to see him. For Shina Kushina's swift and decisive attitude, Garashi could only smile bitterly. He was very happy to know that Shina Kushina Nesan existed, but he didn't plan to meet you. Hearing this, Shina Kushina also calmed down and looked at him with pity. Oh, this kind of vigilance. He must have suffered a lot, but this is also good. With this kind of vigilance, he can live better in this world. I won't disturb his life. Garashi nodded slightly. He has very good friends and they are very strong. Even if you don't kill is not their opponent. Shina Kushina smiled proudly. Of course there are no weak people in our Uzumaki clan. It's not just not weak, it should be ridiculously strong. Garashi thought so. In the memory of his previous life, it was mentioned that Nagato comprehended 6 chakra attribute changes at the age of 10, and was even proficient in all mainstream ninjutsu. In his opinion, even without the Rinnegan, Nagato's talent alone can definitely stand at the top of the ninja world. It can even be said that his talent was dragged down by the eyes that didn't belong to him, just like Kakashi. I have to say, Uchiha Madara's vision is really accurate. Garashi couldn't help but feel a sense of appreciation. In the field of freeloading, I, Garashi, am willing to call you the second. Chapter 114. The next day in a large square. The people who passed the second exam have been waiting here in advance. Just like the last time, people from various villages consciously gathered together and excitedly discussed the next exam. There was only one exception, Rock Crypsis. In the area where Rock Crypsis was located, Purple Earth stood alone, even worse than those small ninja villages. If it wasn't for the requirement that all teams pass, Rock Crypsis would have been wiped out by now. Seeing this situation, many people were gloating. Is this the Rock Crypsis of the 5 great ninja villages? It's really funny. Gee, I heard that they and Kirin's if you don't kill ambushed Shimizu Garashi together, but they were killed instead. Hey, isn't it good to be alive? However, Woodleaf's Shimizu Garashi is too powerful. With so many people ambushing him, if you don't kill in Purple Earth they were defeated by him alone. It seems that the first place of this Chunin exam is definitely him. In the eyes of these people, Garashi suddenly walked towards Marky's position. Seeing Garashi coming, the Sand Crypsis area suddenly became chaotic. What do you want to do? Don't come over. Wait, the exam hasn't started yet. They were frightened by Garashi's record last night, and today they heard that Rock Crypsis was killed, so they had some PTSD when they saw Garashi. Their overreaction confused Shushi. I don't think I've done anything strange to them, have I? Garashi said helplessly, although I don't know why you are so excited, I actually came to apologize. I lost the previous bet. Zhang Xian sighed. Marky shook his head slightly. After really understanding the gap between the two sides, he also realized that his previous idea was ridiculous. This kind of victory has no meaning except to make him unable to see the situation clearly. Don't mind it. That bet. But before he could finish, his voice was drowned out by the others. Ah, don't say that. There's no winning or losing in a friendly competition. That's right. Brother Marky lost to Yuki, but he didn't even apologize. Some people may have won but they have also lost. Some people may have lost but they have already won. Seeing their disgraceful behavior, Zhong Liang was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Were they really not sent by other villages to ruin the reputation of the Sand Crypsis? Garashi was also at a loss. He sighed, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. You guys from Sand Crypsis are too friendly. Marky's face stiffened. It's fine if you guys licked him, but why did you have to step on me as well? Then I'll head back first. I hope to see everyone in the official competition. Seeing that Garashi had left, the Sand Crypsis finally heaved a sigh of relief. Hey, fortunately we're smart. Well, the crisis is over. Marky Dage, you have to thank us when you go back this time. Yes, Marky Dage, your reaction was too slow. Well, if it weren't for us covering for you, you might have been killed in the exam just like if you don't kill. Maji, asterisk asterisk asterisk, asterisk 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 asterisk. A few minutes later, Sandame-sama walked to the front of the stage. I'm very happy to see all the outstanding ninjas from all the major villages gathered together, although everyone is from different countries. After a long speech, Sandame-sama finally ended his speech and got to the point. There will be many daimyo and shinobi village leaders from all over the world who will come to watch the selection, so time is limited and we can't drag it out too much, and this time the number of people who passed the second exam is unprecedented, with a total number of 217 people. Everyone in the field looked back and forth. Compared with the past, the scale of this joint Chunin exam is indeed too big. Woodleaf 60, Yunin 51, Sand Crypsis 21, Kirin 17, Rock Crypsis 1, and the rest of the small villages have 3 to 9 people. Garashi couldn't help but sigh. Yunin's average strength is really strong. If I didn't threaten all snakes, the number of people who passed might be higher than Woodleaf. In the front, Sandame-sama continued, the quota for the official competition is 32 people, so today's qualifier will use the arena mode. There will be a total of 16 arena matches, with 13 to 14 people in each arena, and 2 people will be allowed to pass each round. If you understand, then get ready for the exam. As for the grouping arrangement, I will have someone post it on the bulletin board. As soon as his voice fell, the field became lively. Why are we divided into 16 matches? Isn't it better to have 32 matches? Maybe it's because 32 matches took too long. Moreover, the difference between 13 and 14 people is relatively smaller than the difference between 6 and 7 people. As for why it's not 8 matches, it's mostly because they are worried that the advantage in numbers will offset the gap in strength. The arena is only so big and there is no way to make distance. Without enough time to make hand seals, even the strong may be defeated by the weak. Indeed, the number of people now is just a little bit interesting. In this way, Woodleaf and Yunin have too much of an advantage. It's not as exaggerated as you think. On average, they only have 3 to 4 people in each arena. They won't have an absolute advantage and they may be targeted by others. While everyone was discussing heatedly, Asma came over and asked, "Garashi, how's the situation in your group?" Garashi's gaze swept across the bulletin board. "I'm in the 5th group. Including me, there are 2 people from Woodleaf, 5 from Yunin, 3 from San Crypsis, and 1 from Kirin. The other 3 are from Hidden Star, Hidden Tang, and Hidden Rain." Asma glanced through the names of these people, and then nodded as if he understood something. "Other than you, Garashi, there is no one powerful in this group." It seems that the old man did it on purpose and deliberately did not let us, the strong ones, meet in advance. After all, Master Naruto wants to make sure that the battles in the official competition are exciting enough. Garashi said, and then warned with a serious expression. "However, it doesn't mean that the strong will definitely pass. The more famous you are, the easier it is to be targeted." Asma waved his hand indifferently. "Don't worry, there are 6 people in my group, including me, who are all from Woodleaf." Garashi's eyes twitched. Was this really not a conspiracy? Asma pointed in a certain direction and laughed. "The ones who should be worried are Rock Crypsis. He's famous and he's only one person. If he's targeted by others, maybe even his last seedling will be uprooted." Looking at the lineup of Purple Earth's group, Garashi's expression became more and more strange. Although there were no strong characters in this group, they were not weak either. If they cooperated well, it was entirely possible for them to defeat Purple Earth. Most importantly, none of these villages were on good terms with Rock Crypsis. "Hokage-sama is going to kill them all, kill them all." Chapter 115. In the first group, the candidates who were ready to participate in the competition walked to the center of the square and stood in the ring area. At the same time, they looked at a certain direction with fear. "She's the monster that cleared the forest of death in the fastest time? She's only 8 years old, how can she be so strong? Yunin only has 3 people in this tournament, maybe we still have a chance." Although Yuki hasn't really fought yet, her record of clearing the forest of death in 91 minutes has made her the focus of attention, second only to Garashi. At this moment, the other 2 Yunin ninjas surrounded her. "Yuki, we will try our best to help you stop the enemy. Don't worry about us, just try your best to preserve your strength." The 2 of them didn't know about the Jinchuriki, but they both knew that Yuki's role in passing the exam was definitely greater than theirs. However, Yuki confidently waved her hand and said, "You just need to discuss who will enter the next round of the exam." What? The tournament didn't give them much time to prepare, so when everyone stood in position, Sandaime-sama directly announced the start of the exam. The 2 Yunin ninjas didn't have time to react to Yuki's words, they saw her turn into a shadow and rushed out. So fast. One of the shinobi only saw a flash of light in front of his eyes, and then he was knocked out of the ring area by an irresistible force. At this time, the other people in the ring finally reacted. "Be careful of her taijutsu. Everyone gather together, don't give her a chance to attack us one by one." For Yuki, the ring was small, so she didn't have time to make hand seals. Not to mention taijutsu, she didn't even need to make hand seals to cooperate with her tailed beast. Seeing the other people gathered together, she jumped into the air and spat out mouth-shaped flames from her mouth. "What is this? Is it a ninjutsu without seals? Where are Kirin's people? Hurry up and use water release." However, their struggles were all in vain. After Yuki controlled the flames to explode, the rest of them had no choice but to concede defeat. In just a few seconds, the first match of the single elimination tournament had ended. This is a battle on a completely different level. Garashi shook his head slightly, not surprised by this. A fake genin would generally only know triple body jutsu, and at most some D-class ninjutsu, while a real genin would be able to cast ninjutsu instantaneously, and could casually throw out A-class and S-class ninjutsu. Asma also stared. This brat's strength seems to be really strong. Even if it's me, it won't be easy to defeat her. Garashi looked at him with amusement. "You'd better hope you don't meet her in the official competition." Asma said discontentedly, "Garashi, you are looking down on me. Even if there is a slight gap in strength, my actual combat experience is definitely not comparable to this kid who graduated early." Garashi said faintly, "Then what if she is the same as Shina Kushina Nissen, and a monster is sealed in her body?" Asma shivered as if he had returned to 4 years ago, when he saw that horrible scene. He asked with difficulty, "She is also that?" Garashi nodded slightly. "When she attacked just now, I felt a similar aura. Too despicable, too shameless, Yunin even." Asma said indignantly and suddenly looked at Garashi in a daze. I seem to understand how the other shinobi villages feel when they see us. This single elimination tournament had also caused those thoughts that had arisen due to the competition format to gradually fade away. As expected, the experts in the first echelon still had an overwhelming advantage over the others. The next two matches were also the same. Although it wasn't as easy as Yuki, but with the help of the other shinobi from the same village, it was still relatively easy to win. Only in the fourth round, under the deliberate arrangement of a certain Hokage, did Purple Earth achieve victory with great difficulty, and only after a blood-soaked eruption did she win. He didn't dare not to go all out. If the dignified Rock Crypsis was wiped out in the qualifiers, he would have to be careful in the future. One day, Tsuchikage-sama's hand will slip and directly take him away. Seeing that Purple Earth passed the exam, Sandaime-sama shook his head slightly, feeling a little pity. The war with Rock Crypsis was most likely inevitable. Of course, he didn't want to miss the opportunity to destroy the morale of the other side. Seeing this situation, Yamanaka Inoichi, who was watching from a distance, couldn't help but have cold sweat on his forehead. Naruto-sama didn't know from somewhere that when I taught them last time, Asma said that he was far worse than the Tsuchikage-sama, so he deliberately suppressed Rock Crypsis? Wait, then won't I be dead? Thinking of this, Yamanaka Inoichi hurriedly shook his head. No, Naruto-sama is far-sighted and open-minded. How could he target Rock Crypsis for such a trivial matter? Well, it must be revenge for Rock Crypsis' actions in the Land of Grass. Next was the fifth match, which attracted the most attention. Not only the candidates, but even the Jonin team leaders of the villages were also attentive. They also wanted to know how strong Shimizu Garashi, who killed if you don't kill and even killed the entire Rock Crypsis. Garashi was indifferent. He had long been accustomed to being the focus of the crowd. This attention didn't affect his state at all. The fifth match start. As soon as his voice fell, the 5 Cloud Ninjas who were assigned to this group immediately rushed up to the enemy. With the previous exams as a reference, they naturally didn't think that they could cause any hindrance to Garashi. What they want to do is to force out a part of the opponent's strength so that their ninjas who pass the exam can take the initiative in the official competition. Everyone, come with us. Even if it's for the candidates who pass the exam in your village, try your best to force out Shimizu Garashi's strength. However, the situation on the field didn't go as they imagined. Except for the only one who responded to the call, the other ninjas didn't attack Garashi. Instead, they rushed to Yunin with the most ferocious posture. The group of Yunin almost vomited blood. It's fine if the small villages attack, but what do you mean by San Crypsis meddling in other people's business? Idiot. Your enemy is not our Yunin. Think about Marky from San Crypsis. What if he meets Shimizu Garashi in the official competition? However, the 3 San Crypsis ninjas were incomparably firm. Idiot, do you think that just because Marky-san has information he can beat? Marky-san doesn't need that kind of thing. That's right, with Marky-san's strength, he doesn't need any information at all. The group of Yunin couldn't help but be shocked. San Crypsis Marky's strength was actually so strong? Even now, Shimizu Garashi still thinks that he doesn't need any information to beat with Leaf. San Crypsis Marky is so terrifying. Outside the ring, seeing the ninjas from other villages looking at him with admiration and worship, Marky began to panic. Chapter 116. Garashi didn't even have time to make a move, and the challenge tournament ended in a very dramatic way. In the end, he won against a Woodleaf genin who had graduated 2 or 3 years ago. In this regard, the ninjas of all countries were speechless. They had imagined many ways to end the battle, and they had also speculated about what kind of abilities Shushi would show. However, they had never expected that Shushi would end up with such a powerful ability. Although they didn't think that this kind of condensing ability would be useful, but seeing Garashi's calm appearance, they couldn't help but envy him. At the same time, they also had some strange ideas in their hearts. Today, a group of genin was fighting for him, and tomorrow maybe a group of small countries will fight for him? What a troublesome kid. Yunin Tsudai was depressed for a while and then shook his head. Forget it, even if there are no other villages in the way, they won't be able to force him to show his true strength. Thinking like this, he looked at San Crypsis with suspicious eyes. But when did the relationship between San Crypsis and Woodleaf become so good? Is it because of the Sandaime Kazekage's matter, and they plan to join forces with Woodleaf? This is the heart of the people, the uncrowned king. Sandaime stood in front of the stage and smiled with satisfaction, and then looked at San Crypsis while smoking his pipe. Although I don't understand why San Crypsis's attitude is like this, This may be an opportunity to take the initiative to spread the news that San Crypsis and Woodleaf are allies. Even if San Crypsis doesn't recognize it, it can be a thorn in the hearts of other villages. Of course, if they pinch their noses and recognize it, it would be better. Thinking of this, Sandame's face was full of a smile. The 6th and 7th groups passed smoothly, but when it came to the 8th group, everyone's eyes focused on someone again. San Crypsis Marky, maybe we underestimated him before. Knowing that Shimizu Garashi killed if you don't kill and broke through Rock Crypsis, he can still say that with confidence. Is he the most hidden character in this Chunin exam? No wonder Shimizu Garashi went to the San Crypsis area before the exam, maybe he felt threatened by him. Hiss. They are indeed worthy of being one of the 3 people who made a bet before the exam. Compared to them, Zabuza and Z2 are really too far apart. No wonder they were ignored by the 3 of them during the bet. Hearing the whispers on and off the stage, Marky almost went crazy. Stop bragging. If you keep bragging, I'm going to explode. However, they won't be fooled by him again. He's actually still pretending. He's really shrewd. If it weren't for the San Crypsis, we would still be in the dark. Yuki is the fastest, Shimizu Garashi is the most gentle, if you don't kill is the fiercest, Purple Earth is the weakest, Marky must be the most hidden. Seeing everyone's eyes looking at him with more and more fear, Marky couldn't help but feel numb. What's wrong with this world? He even suspected that if he won with difficulty, they would only say that he was hiding his strength again. Marky sighed with a heavy heart, abandoned the distracting thoughts, and returned his attention to the arena. 3 people from Yunnan, 3 people from Woodleaf, 2 people from Kirin, 2 people from San Crypsis, and 4 people from the other villages. It's a little troublesome. The 8th round start. Before Marky could react, he saw the 3 people from Woodleaf rushing towards Yunnan. Leave this side to us. Friends from San Crypsis, don't worry about the others. Marky and the other San Crypsis ninja were at a loss. They still didn't know what the village's position was. But the problem is that the San Crypsis and Woodleaf just had a wave of friendly cooperation, and now that Woodleaf returned the favor, they ignored the goodwill and attacked Woodleaf. It's a slap in the face. And with the current state of San Crypsis, it's really not good to make enemies everywhere. Therefore, they can only bite the bullet and accept Woodleaf's kindness. Seeing this situation, the surrounding ninja villages looked at San Crypsis in surprise. Only Sandame-sama stood in front of the stage, twirling his beard with a smile. San Crypsis Zhong Liang's face was black. He didn't blame Marky and the others. It was difficult to deal with such a situation in such a short time. What annoyed him was that Woodleaf caught such a small flaw. His heart was too black. In the end, Marky and his companions successfully won the quota. But they couldn't be happy. I always feel like we've been schemed against. Alas, the outside world is really too dangerous. Not to mention what kind of shadow this incident left on the young hearts of the 2, the following challenge tournament continued. Not surprisingly, Empress Shomiai, Asma, Kurinai, Metke, Samui, and others also entered the official tournament. The small ninja villages couldn't help but sigh. The foundation of the 5 great ninja villages is too strong, it's not something they can catch up with. Well, except for Rock Crypsis. However, this situation changed until the 13th challenge tournament. This time, Bordered Soil, Sama has won the quota. As if he noticed someone's gaze on him, Bordered Soil shouted confidently. An Uchiha powerhouse? Sabina's eyes were dignified. Before the start of the tournament, she noticed on the bulletin board that there was an Uchiha in her group. At this moment, seeing the strong and confident appearance of the other party, she didn't dare to underestimate him. Fire release, great fireball technique. Lightning release, ground walk. In the next moment, Bordered Soil's body was scorched black. He spat out a mouthful of smoke and then fell to the ground. This is an Uchiha powerhouse? Sabina blinked, inexplicably feeling that the Uchiha's reputation was ruined. But at this moment, everyone in the audience exclaimed. Amazing, which ninja village is she from? It seems to be Hagakin. I didn't expect that arrogant ninja village to have such a powerhouse. Sabina turned her head and found that the rest of the contestants had fallen to the ground, and standing in the middle of them was a gentle and elegant big sister. How could she be so fast? Sabina was shocked, but at the same time she looked at Bordered Soil gratefully. That was close. Fortunately, the others were scared by the name of the Uchiha, so they didn't bother us. The 13th challenge winner, Hagakin Summer Star, Yunnan Sabina. With the announcement of the referee, there was a small uproar. Although there were 2 or 3 ninjas from small ninja villages who passed the exam before, they were all lucky and didn't pass the exam with an absolute advantage like her. In many people's view, she almost has the strength of the second echelon of the 5 great ninja villages. This Hagekin's big sister seems to be very powerful. Asma commented, although she looks 3 or 4 years older than us, it's very good to be able to grow up in a small place like Hagekin. Garashi smiled. According to the information I learned from the Hagekin that I saved in the second exam, she's not easy to deal with. Asuma waved his hand nonchalantly. That technique of hers does look quite powerful, but I've already discovered her weakness. It should be that it's very difficult for her to defend against close-range attacks while she's casting the technique. Such an obvious flaw isn't a problem for me. Garashi smiled slightly. What if she can fly? Chapter 117. Unlike the previous 3 consecutive exams, the last official exam was scheduled for half a month later in order to allow the daimyo and kage who were interested in watching to have time to participate, as well as to give the examinees more time to prepare for the exam. Walking in the forest, Kurenai asked with some puzzlement, didn't the previous Chunin exam last 1 month? Garashi lowered his voice and said, maybe Naruto-sama is worried that they can't wait too long? Asuma looked a little nervous. Garashi, do you think Reikage and Tsuchikage will take this opportunity to start a war directly? Kurenai also nodded with worry. If the kage of each village enter the village, if they join forces, it will be difficult for Woodleaf to deal with them, right? Garashi shook his head slightly. It's dangerous for us to let the enemy's kage enter the village, but it's also dangerous for them. The number of guards the kage of each village can bring in is limited. Unless they have a way to avoid the barrier, their individual combat power is far from being our opponent. As for an alliance, I don't think the possibility is high. The relationship between the various villages is full of hatred and betrayal, and the relationship between them hasn't reached the point where they can trust each other. The most important point is that they now know that Woodleaf's military is relatively backward, and there's no reason to give up a more stable war and adopt this relatively risky approach. Garashi said with a smile, in my opinion, if it weren't for Woodleaf's good reputation, and they didn't want to show their weakness, maybe the kage of the major villages wouldn't dare to come to watch this exam. Asuma nodded thoughtfully. Yes, speaking of which, we have Shina Kushinasen here, they should be the ones worried. Garashi suddenly stopped and squinted his eyes. This kind of behavior will make people misunderstand. Someone is following us? Asuma and Kurenai were also alert and took out their kunai on guard. Sorry I was rude. A gentle girl came out from behind the tree and put her hand on her chest to apologize. It's her. Asuma recognized him at a glance. He was Xia Rixing, who had shown brilliantly in the previous qualifiers. You don't have to worry about it, but... Garashi smiled. Is there something you need? Xia Tianxing hesitated for a moment, as if he had made a great decision. He bowed very formally and said, I would like to ask you to examine my body. Red's eyes widened in an instant. The shameless coquettish bitch had appeared. Thinking of this, Red quickly took 2 steps forward and protected Garashi behind her. At the same time, she looked at her with hostility. For things like a physical checkup, you can go to Woodleaf Hospital. If you don't know the way, I can take you there. My situation can't be seen by ordinary medical ninjas. Summer Star smiled bitterly and looked at Garashi with hopeful eyes. Perhaps only the disciple of Princess Katsuyu Tsunade-sama can do it. Red was a little hesitant. She didn't want her hindrance to affect others. Are you really sick? Xia Rixing nodded first, then shook his head. To be honest, I'm not sure if my current situation is considered sick. In the end, the kindness in her heart prevailed, and Red reluctantly stepped aside. Then, okay. Seeing this, Asuma, who was waiting for a good show, couldn't help but sigh. Oh, sister is so silly. Red glared at him fiercely. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak. Thank you. Xia Rixing naturally saw some clues, and he was more grateful to Red. What a kind girl. With that, Xia Rixing once again asked Garashi, Excuse me, can I ask you to check for me? Shushi smiled gently and said, Of course you can, but please don't use such an honorific. Xia Rixing was startled and smiled. I understand, thank you. With that, she looked around again. Then where should we check? Here is fine. Here? Garashi stretched out his index finger, and a chakra thread shot out from his fingertip into Xia Rixing's body. Then he focused all of his attention on sensing. So this is fine. As if thinking of something embarrassing, both Red and Xia Rixing blushed. After a while, the chakra thread was cut. Garashi said with a serious expression, It's really serious. The chakra in your body is too active. Hearing this, Xia Rixing nodded in surprise. Yes, that's it. In fact, this was not her first time seeing a doctor, but all the doctors said that she was normal. If she didn't know what would happen to people like her in the future, she would have believed it herself. So, although she had fantasies about Garashi, she was just giving it a try. She didn't expect that Garashi would discover her problem at a glance. Asma muttered, "Chakra is too active. Is this considered an illness?" Red was also puzzled. Yeah, isn't this a good thing? I heard that Yunin's ninjutsu uses chakra to activate the body. Chakra activation is of course a good thing, but it's not good if it can't be stopped or controlled. Garashi shook his head slightly. Her chakra is too active. She's like a person who is always in a state of excitement. After a long time, her body naturally can't take it. The most important thing is that this chakra activation will give the brain an illusion, making you feel 100 times more energetic, but in fact, it's emptying your body bit by bit. Xia Rixing was so excited that her breathing became rapid. That must be it. There were many people in the village who died because of practicing the secret of the planet, but most people didn't realize this because their condition was too good before the illness struck. Many people thought that it was just a problem with their practice. Xia Rixing asked expectantly, "Is there a way to cure it?" I can't make an accurate judgment until I see the source of this chakra. Garashi shook his head slightly. The only thing I can do is to temporarily use the seal to help you suppress chakra activation. However, you can't use Hashigakure's secret technique. The source? Xia Rixing didn't care about her physical condition, but her eyes kept flashing. The village will never let outsiders get close to Star, so I can only take it away by force. Thinking of this, she forced herself to calm down. No, I can't do this now. I have to wait patiently until I become a Jonin. So, I can't give up my strength. Xia Rixing sighed and then thanked him. Thank you very much. As for the seal, let's talk about it later. Asma and Red were excited. Didn't you hear what Garashi said? You may die if you continue like this. Xia Rixing smiled softly. Isn't this the awareness that every ninja should have? After that, she looked firmly at Garashi. Please wait for me for a few more years. I will definitely bring the source to you. Chapter 118. Watching Asuka leave, Asma sighed. Sigh. It's not easy for those small ninja villages. I don't even care about that secret technique, but they have to practice it at the cost of their lives. Garashi also sighed. This world has never been fair. Relatively speaking, he's already considered lucky. If it was Hoshino, then no matter how much he calculated, it would be useless. Kurenai was still a little worried. Garashi, that sister Asuka, will she be okay? Garashi shook his head slightly. It won't be a big problem for the time being, but it will be harder to turn back later. Even she's working so hard, what reason do I have to not work hard? Asma poured himself a bowl of chicken soup, and shouted, Garashi, let's start the special training. Garashi pondered for a moment. It's difficult for your strength to improve too much in a short time, so let's focus on your nerve reaction and psychological resistance. Asuma was puzzled. I know about nervous reactions, but what's with mental resistance? Garashi played with the kunai and smiled. I will use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to attack you continuously. While training your nerve reaction, I will also let you feel the pain of continuous failure. This way, you should be able to deal with all kinds of situations in the exam calmly. That's it? Asma disdained, inexplicably giving birth to a strong sense of confidence. I'm a man who has lost 1,000 times, failure can't beat me anymore. Besides, as long as I'm prepared for the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, there's nothing to be afraid of. Garashi took back the kunai and took out a large number of shurikens. It's easy to judge the position of a kunai, so how about 30 shurikens? Asma swallowed with some difficulty and quickly began to calculate in his heart. If I lose once every 3 to 5 seconds, I will lose at least 12 times in a minute, and 720 times in an hour. Even if I take the time to recover chakra into account, 2 hours is enough for me to lose 1,000 times. Thinking of this, Asma's eyes glazed over. So, I might lose 5 years' worth of shurikens today? After the special training, he returned home. Hoshino's meteorite? Maybe I can look forward to it a little. Garashi smiled slightly, and after arranging a certain tool, he didn't care anymore. He did have some interest in Hoshino's meteorite and chakra, but that's all. After all, he doesn't want his body to be contaminated by that dangerous chakra. Whether it was in the original manga, Orochimaru's soul couldn't fit with his body, which led to his death by Uchiha Itachi's genjutsu, or Danzo's experiments on his own body, which led to the slow reaction of his body, which led to him being killed by Uchiha Sasuke even though he had 11 chances to resurrect. All of this shows the importance of keeping the body and soul pure. So from the beginning Garashi's bodies, he's his blood. S his he his. Teat have, est. Something, estivus of, teas. S's that's and, limited by Otsutsuki, I'll never be able to surpass him. Garashi knows very well that there is a more terrifying darkness behind the shadow of the ninja world. If he follows Otsutsuki's path, he will only be swallowed when the darkness comes. So, instead of inheriting and transplanting the bloodline, it's better to create it myself. After all, Kekkei Genkai and Kekkei Genkai can be developed, so there's no reason why Kekkei Genkai can't be developed. In Garashi's view, just like those ancestors who developed Kekkei Genkai and spread it, Otsutsuki's SS, may be the result of their ancestors' perfection. If they can do it, there's no reason why he can't even try. Having said that, Garashi also knows that this will be a huge project, and he may never be able to do it with his own strength. Therefore he wants to use the wisdom of others or the power of the whole world. However, I have to be strong myself to forge iron, otherwise no matter how many calculations I have, it will only be a wedding dress for others. And my steady improvement is still a little too slow in the end. There are many good things similar to the hidden star meteorites in the shinobi world, and it would be a pity to give them up completely. Maybe I can create a perfect clone to carry out the experiment for me? Shuishi's eyes were deep. In this way, I don't have to worry about contamination. The Third Shinobi World War may be an opportunity. In the tense and exciting atmosphere of preparation for the war, 15 days passed in a flash. Unlike the previous relatively closed exams, the official competition is open to everyone. Wow, there's so many people. I don't know which village will take the first place in the Chunin exam. Do you still need to ask? Of course it's our Wood Leaf. It should be our Yunin. Bastard, don't underestimate San Crypsis. Humph. We rock Crypsis. Rock Crypsis people don't brag. Hearing the noise around her, Kurenai was a little excited, and her little face was red. This time there are people from more than a dozen countries watching. For the honor of the village we must try to get a good ranking. Asma's face was calm as if he had entered the sage mode. I don't care about winning or losing in my eyes. On the side, Ibixi couldn't help but ask, is it I boogers? By the way, you look really handsome when you're killed more than a dozen times in a minute. Asma's defense was broken in a second and he was mad. Ah, how did you know? Oh, when Naruto-sama gave us guidance before the battle, he used the telescope technique to use you as an example. Asma's eyes were dull, and he muttered words like, pull out the oxygen tube, and sign the agreement, that Ibixi couldn't understand. On the other side of the platform, Nagato lowered his voice and apologized. I'm sorry, because of me you have to leave early. Yahiko hugged him and said, since you know you'll be in charge of washing my underwear for the rest of the week. Nagato was at a loss and asked weakly, when was the last time you washed it? Yahiko seriously recalled, about half a month ago? Hearing this, Konan and Nagato sat a little farther away. Yahiko didn't care, he just looked around and said, in the future, we will hold a more grand exam than this one, and let the flowers of peace bloom all over the world. Above the platform, sitting among the daimyo and kage, Kitsuchi said with great pressure, my father accidentally twisted his waist, so I will attend the Chunin exam instead. Sandame smiled kindly, ha, you can take on such a heavy responsibility at such a young age, it really makes an old man like me envious, but why is Inoki so careless? Don't tell me he doesn't want to see me, an old friend? On the side, Reikage and Mizukage despised him, Wood Leaf killed everyone, and he still has the nerve to ask why the Tsuchikage didn't come? Kitsuchi was also helpless, his father didn't come because he was afraid of losing face, but because of extreme anger, he really twisted his waist. As a new Kazekage, Raza was secretly relieved. Fortunately, there was Rock Crypsis to help him attract the fire. Otherwise, this group of old hooligans would have teased him. Chapter 119. In front of everyone, Sandame slowly stood up from his seat and said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming here to watch the Chunin selection exam held by Wood Leaf Hidden Village. Next, the 32 candidates who passed the preliminaries will participate in the official selection. Please enjoy. The first game, Rock Crypsis Purple Earth against Kirin Empress Shomiai. Hearing this, Reikage said, Kitsuchi, it seems that Naruto really took care of you. He arranged such an opponent. If you lose again, it won't be justifiable. Mizuki's squinted his eyes and said, "Are you looking down on Kirin's ninja?" Reikage laughed. "I didn't say that, but didn't those little guys line up the strongest genin of each village? Kirin's strongest genin seems to have been killed by Woodleaf's ninja when he joined forces with Rock Crypsis. Hey, if the strongest genin is this level, then this girl. Haha, I'm just worried, don't think too much about it." For a while, the Mizuki's eyes were full of murderous intent, and Kitsuchi's veins were bulging. Even Naruto slightly frowned. AI, who was standing behind Reikage, nodded thoughtfully. Could it be that his father got the strongest defense in the shinobi world because of this? In the field. Damn, I can't even think about winning. Purple Earth looked at the groups on the list and his heart was trembling. Because he clearly saw Shimizu Garashi's name in the next round, that is to say, once he wins this battle, he will have to face that monster in the round of 16. It seems that I can only win with difficulty and pain, so I have a reason to give up in the next round. Thinking of this, Purple Earth's heart calmed down a little, and then he looked at the red-haired girl in front of him with a perverted look. Come on, let me feel pain as much as possible. Seeing Purple Earth's fanatical look, Empress Shomiai was a little frightened, and she secretly muttered, as expected of a guy who mixed with people like if you don't kill, he's really a pervert. As the referee shouted the start of the battle, Purple Earth directly rushed up. Earth release, Monolith's fist. Purple Earth's right fist was covered with a rock gauntlet, and under his full strength, even the air faintly made a low sound. Kitsuchi nodded silently in the stands. This kind of strength, the special training he gave Purple Earth was not in vain. May didn't dare to take it head-on. Earth release restrains water release. In this case, it's difficult for me to take advantage of him. I still have several battles to fight today. I can't waste too much chakra on him. It seems that I can only use that move. Lava release, acid bomb. What is this? Seeing the strange liquid spraying towards him, Purple Earth subconsciously raised his hand to block. But in the next moment he let out a painful scream. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, his rock gauntlet completely melted, and even his skin began to rot. This is a Kekkei Genkai. I've never heard of this little girl's family. In other words, this is a Kekkei Genkai she developed herself? I didn't expect Kirin. The Sandaime in the stands was a little shocked and he turned to look at the Mizuki's, but found that the latter was also staring. He didn't know? She developed her own Kekkei Genkai at the age of 10? What kind of talent is this? The Mizuki's thought with surprise. Compared to if you don't kill, she's a real genius. She might even develop a Kekkei Genkai like the Mizuki's in the future. Everyone was shocked and only Kitsuchi lamented in his heart. No, we're not going to be eliminated in the first round, right? The dignified Rock Crypsis was eliminated in the first round of the official tournament. He could even imagine how the other ninja villages would laugh at them after the competition. He was beginning to suspect that his father had deliberately twisted his waist because he had predicted this scene. Amazing. In the stands, Kurenai covered her mouth in surprise, but immediately had some doubts. Does Kirin have this Kekkei Genkai? Garashi shook his head slightly. It should be a Kekkei Genkai she developed herself. She's a genius who can develop her own Kekkei Genkai. Asma, who recovered from the sage mode, looked dignified and then shook his head. It's a pity that talent is not equal to strength. If it were me, I would just be careful to avoid her attacks. Ibiki shrugged. I don't think it's necessary to treat her as an imaginary enemy. After all, her next opponent is Garashi. The surrounding Woodleaf ninjas nodded vigorously. This group is really miserable. It's a group of death. Don't say that. I haven't even started the first round. Garashi smiled helplessly. It's too disrespectful to think about the second round now. Asma looked strange. Respect the opponent, that means you won't go easy on them? Garashi's eyes were dignified. Those who can enter the official tournament are strong, of course. I won't go easy on them. Not to mention Naruto-sama and the others are watching from the stage. Asma's heart trembled and sighed. Alas. I hope they can be as strong as me, otherwise, there will be a few more sad people in this world. Ibiki strongly agreed. Asma was indeed good in this aspect. At this time, the first round finally ended, and the referee began to announce the results. The winner of the first round is Kirin Empress Shomiai. The second round, Woodleaf Shimizu Garashi vs Yunin Samui. On Yunin's side, Yuki and Sabino were waving their little fists to cheer Samui. Samui nodded to her friends, then took a deep breath and jumped down from the spectator stand. She knew that her opponent was very strong, but Empress Shomiai's outburst gave her some hope. Maybe she could also create a miracle? As Garashi's first official fight, this match naturally carried the attention of many people. So he's Qingshui Shushi. He doesn't seem special at all. I heard that even Naruto praised him as a genius. As the other side of the match, Samui was also watched by many people. While she was nervous, she could not help but admire Garashi, who was as calm as a cloud. His heart is indeed much stronger than mine. At this time, the referee also officially announced, "The match begins. No matter what, I have to force him to show some of his strength." Samui's body emitted a burst of electric light, and after activating her body cells with chakra, she dashed toward Garashi at an extremely fast speed. Cloud flow flying blade. Garashi watched calmly, and in the next second he formed a seal. Illusion heart erosion. Under the expectant gaze of the crowd, Samui's running body stopped, and with a plop she fell down, and then slid all the way to Garashi under the inertia. Seeing this, many girls subconsciously touched their chests. Phew, luckily I'm flat. Chapter 120. Seeing this scene, the spectators on the viewing platform were at a loss. What's going on? Why is the little girl suddenly sleepy? Idiot, have you ever seen anyone who can suddenly fall asleep during a fight? This is obviously a genjutsu. Isn't the gap too big? It feels like it's less than a second. He's worthy of being the strongest genius of Woodleaf. He's simply crushing other people. Reikage in the stands was surprised. Samui's will was relatively strong, but in the face of Shimizu Garashi's genjutsu, he actually lost consciousness in an instant. Although the others were also a little surprised, they didn't think much about it. They just thought that the little girl's will was too weak. After all, Shimizu Garashi was a medical ninja in the intelligence. Even if he knew some genjutsu, it was impossible for him to be strong. The Mizukage, who was ridiculed before, naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity, and said with an exaggerated expression, "Oh, is this the excellent ninja of Yunin? He's really amazing." He almost lasted until the second. Reikage looked at him with a black face. "Don't be happy too early. His next opponent is your little girl named Empress Shomiai." Although the Mizukage was a little worried, he still didn't want to show his fear. Empress Shomiai is a genius who can develop the Kekiai Genjutsu at the age of 10. Her will is certainly not comparable to some Yunin ninjas, and her Kekiai Genjutsu is extremely corrosive and aggressive. It can restrain medical ninjas with strong recovery ability. In short, the winner of the next round will be our Kirin. Reikage looked to the side and said, "Naruto, he said that your Woodleaf's Shimizu Garashi will definitely lose. What do you think?" Sandame smiled and waved his hand. "Ha, harmony brings wealth, harmony brings wealth. Leave the battle to the young people. We old men should just quietly watch the game." Reikage was suspicious. This guy's temper was so good? Only Kitsuchi secretly despised him. He already knew from Magic Leech that Shimizu Garashi's talent was exaggerated. Old man Naruto must be laughing up his sleeve. Sigh, when will our Rock Crypsis have such a genius? The next few matches were all evenly matched and intense battles, which made the audience feel very satisfied. After all, Garashi's match had ended too quickly. They had only blinked their eyes and that little girl was already lying on the ground. There was no viewing experience at all. When it came to the 11th round, the audience became excited again. Round 11, Yunin Yuki vs. Woodleaf Metke. When he heard the referee call his name, Yuki stood up beside Samui, who was still in a daze. Then he jumped down from the spectator stand. Sabina comforted her little friend who had suffered a great blow. She waved her hand and shouted, "Yuki, beat him until he cries. Avenge Samui." At this time, a Woodleaf genin in the spectator stand jumped onto the railing and shouted, "Come on, Kai. Dad is proud of you. Your hard work can already see the results." Metke was moved to tears and gave a thumbs up to the railing. "Dad, I can already feel the hot blood of youth." Yuki looked back awkwardly. He seems to be crying. Sabina was dumbfounded. Woodleaf's genin was too despicable. Then beat him until he meows. Cough, beat him until he cries again. The referee jumped away. Match start. Metke wiped his tears with the back of his hand and said seriously, "I heard that you are a genius on the same level as Garashi-senpai. I know that I may be far from being your opponent, but my youth will not end. Even if it's only once, I will burn with passion." Yujito-ni was baffled. "What are you talking about?" "What I mean is, I won't consider the rest of the exam." Metke gave her a thumbs up and a bright smile appeared on his face. Hashiman Tanku open. His aura suddenly changed. Yuki's pupils shrank as he noticed the change in his opponent. Gate of opening, gate of rest, gate of life, gate of pain. Welcome the heat of youth. Metkai's speed reached the extreme, as if he had disappeared from everyone's sight. The next moment he kicked Yuki into the air. Then like a rubber ball he kicked Yuki back and forth in the air. Too fast, my body can't react in time. Yuki felt a sharp pain in his body, but his mind was not thinking about the pain. Damn it, other than Shimizu Garashi there is actually such a strong person. No, I can't lose here. Are you joking? Yuki is actually suppressed by that stupid-looking guy. Sabina almost couldn't believe her eyes. This guy is too fierce. Asuma opened his mouth and began to think about whether he could beat Guy in this state. Reikage in the stand suddenly turned his head to look at Naruto. Wood Leaf really hides deep, you actually have such a strong genin. Naruto laughed. Fortunately, he's only at the level of an ordinary genin. Looking at Naruto's smiling face, the surrounding Kage couldn't wait to take off their clogs and slap his face. Can you be more shameless? Reikage said with a fake smile. Oh, as expected of the first Naruto's Wood Leaf, the foundation is really not something we can compare with, but Yunin's genin is not so easy to deal with. While talking, the situation on the field began to change. Yuki, who was at a disadvantage, suddenly appeared a strange blue chakra on her body. At the same time, the injuries on her body began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. What's going on? Mato Guy also noticed the strangeness as well as the trembling chakra of the other party. No, I have to open the fifth gate. But at this moment, Yujito Rin suddenly broke free from Lianua's restraints and appeared in front of Mato Guy in the blink of an eye. With a claw attack she sent him flying. Metkei was about to forcibly open the fifth gate, which was interrupted. She felt threatened, so she forcibly interrupted Guy's action? Sandaime slightly narrowed his eyes. It's really rare to be able to maintain consciousness in the case of losing a tail. The Mizukage on the side couldn't help but say, Are you kidding me? You actually sent a Jinchuriki? Kitsuchi was dumbfounded on the spot. What kind of monsters are Yunin and Wood Leaf? Raza's mouth twitched slightly. The seemingly rude and barbaric Reikage seems to be more shameless than he thought. Reikage laughed. The Chunin exam doesn't seem to stipulate that a Jinchuriki can't participate in the exam, right? Naruto, what do you think? Sandaime recovered from the shock and smiled calmly. Of course, the Chunin exam is for all genin. The Mizukage couldn't help but look sideways. Are you crazy? That's a Jinchuriki. Sandaime laughed. With us Kages there won't be any trouble. The Mizukage's mouth twitched. Is that what he meant? Seeing Sandaime's generous smile, Reikage was shocked. That kid isn't Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, right? But soon he denied his idea. He sent Yuki because he wasn't worried about Yuki losing consciousness. After all, this is Wood Leaf. Even if there is a loss, it has nothing to do with him. And Wood Leaf's people shouldn't be so careless. You know, the Kyuubi's destructive power is far more than the Nibi's. Thinking of this, Reikage was a little relieved, and while politely complimenting he said, Haha Naruto, Sama is really generous, unlike some people whose heart is too fragile. Chapter 121. After a while, there was a sudden burst of excited exclamations from the stands. It's too scary. What was that just now? Are you kidding me? I feel like I'll be killed in seconds if I go up against any of them. Be more confident, get rid of the feeling. It seems that the first place in this Chunin exam should be Yunin's Yuki. Not necessarily, the Sand Crypsis still has Admiral Marki. After Yuki unleashed her terrifying chakra, the balance in everyone's hearts gradually began to tilt towards her. After all, Garashi's Genjutsu was too weak, completely unlike the shocking battle between Yuki and Metkei. When the referee announced the end of the battle, Garashi jumped down to rescue Metkei and shook his head slightly. It's too messy, but fortunately it didn't open the fifth gate. At this time Yuki, who had returned to her human form, said in a low voice, When he wakes up, tell him that I lost this game. Without waiting for Garashi to ask, she explained, I used power that didn't belong to me. He should have won this game. I'll tell Guy, but you don't have to think too much. Garashi carried Metkei and stepped on the wall straight up. Ninjas are a group of people who only care about the results. There's nothing to be ashamed of. At least, I'm well aware of the pain that a Jinchuriki goes through in the process. Resisting their power is just denying your own existence and efforts. To be honest, he really admired the future Crown Prince's attitude of, why can't I use the cheats that I've worked so hard for? If you don't use cheats, how can you save the world? If you don't use cheats, how can you protect the world? It's not shameful to use cheats for world peace. Yuki remained silent. Even though Yunin had the best Jinchuriki environment, she was still regarded as a monster by many people who knew the inside story. Not to mention she had worked hard to control her chakra under the influence of the tailed beast. The situation only improved after she reached a preliminary consensus with second last. Is it because I'm afraid of being ostracized that I'm resisting using that power from the bottom of my heart? Yuki mumbled to himself as he recalled what Metkei had said before the battle. To be able to earn his respect, you should be stronger than him in that state, right? It seems that if I don't borrow the power of my tailed beast, I don't even have the qualifications to fight you head-on. No matter how she felt, the exam continued. More than an hour later, the official competition entered the second round. The first match of the second round, Kirin Empress Shomiai vs. Woodleaf Shimizu Garashi. Hearing the referee's announcement, Empress Shomiai nervously stood up from the spectator stand. Violet Knight asked worriedly, "Are you going to be all right?" "I'm not confident at all." Empress Shomiai shook her head with a bitter smile. However, she immediately looked determined. "However, I'll do my best." "You must be careful of his physical skills. By the way, there's also his illusion." "Got it." They had seen how powerful his physical skills were and did not think that his illusion could reach the same level as his physical skills. Hence, they subconsciously attributed Samui's death to his weak willpower. She jumped onto the arena to see that Garashi was already waiting for her. After making some preparations, the competition officially began. His physical skills are too strong. Even if Samui doesn't get killed by his illusion, she'll definitely fail if she rushes forward like that. In Empress Shomiai's opinion, his physical skills were his strongest point. Hence, she did not rush forward to fight him like everyone expected. Instead, she hurriedly retreated as soon as the battle began. This distance should be enough. I just have to be careful of his illusions. Empress Shomiai was on guard. Suddenly, she felt a strong sense of drowsiness. "I'm so sleepy." "No, it's an illusion." Empress Shomiai barely managed to stay awake. Break. However, it was useless. The difference in soul power between them was too great. She could not break through the illusion by herself. How is this possible? There's no way to break through this illusion. Empress Shomiai felt an inexplicable sense of fear. This was something that she had never encountered before. "You can still hold on?" Garashi calmly increased his damage output. The next moment, Empress Shomiai collapsed just like Samui. Almost everyone in the audience stood up from their seats in disbelief when they saw this scene. There was a need for comparison in a battle. Unlike the previous exam, Samui did not show any strong combat power. Even if he was instantly killed, they would not be shocked. However, Empress Shomiai defeated the most powerful member of Rock Crypsis, Purple Earth, in the previous exam. This kind of strong person was instantly killed by Shimizu Garashi without any suspense. Just how strong is that genius of Konoha? He's too strong. I didn't expect his illusions to be so powerful. Marky was shocked. The ninjutsu strength that the other party showed in the Forest of Death had already extinguished his competitive spirit. Now he did not even have the thought of catching up. Perhaps the difference between us is 1,000 purple earths. Amazing. As expected of someone recognized by Yahiko-sama. Yahiko hugged Nagato. "Nagato, can you beat him?" Nagato weakly replied, "He's very powerful. I may not be his opponent." Even the Mizukage in the stands pointed at Garashi and looked at Naruto and asked, "You call this a medical ninja?" Sandame smiled and said, "Isn't it reasonable for a medical ninja to know some genjutsu? Why isn't Kirin like this? This kid's genjutsu is too exaggerated." Reikage was shocked for a while, but he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. But fortunately, it's just a genjutsu. It is a well-known fact that ordinary genjutsu is ineffective against a jinchuriki who can communicate with a bijou. Because there are two kinds of chakra in a jinchuriki's body, one can be controlled, and the other can help to disrupt the flow of chakra and stimulate the jinchuriki to wake up. Kitsuchi on the side was also a little dumbfounded. Didn't Magic Leech say that Shimizu Garashi's strength is entirely because of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu? But now it seems that he can crush all the candidates except for the Jinchuriki with Genjutsu alone. Even if Woodleaf has declined in recent years, its foundation and potential are still not comparable to other ninja villages. After witnessing this scene, Raza couldn't help but secretly think, perhaps, it's a good choice to form a temporary alliance with Woodleaf. Although the next few battles looked more exciting, they were too far away in terms of shock. Even the villagers who don't understand fighting can understand one thing, that is, no matter how fancy they fight, Garashi can defeat them in a second. It wasn't until the fourth exam that there was a slight change. "Hokage Ninja, Stop here, I am different from the opponents you have encountered before, I am the strongest Yunin from the shinobi world. Although the style is shameful, the Yunin ninja who spoke is indeed very strong. Her taijutsu practice is even better than many Chunin, and her amazing speed and attack just happened to restrain Xia Rixing's seemingly powerful but somewhat clumsy peacock technique. It seems that this is the only way. The mimic chakra behind Xia Rixing changed form and turned into wings and flew into the sky. The Yunin ninja who spoke big words before was dumbfounded. Isn't this cheating? The ninjas watching the battle were also very surprised. There are too few ninjutsu that can fly in the shinobi world. Except for the use of summoned beasts, it seems that only Tsuchikige's super light rock technique can have this effect. The fourth round? That is to say, if she can win the next round, my opponent will be her. Garashi pondered and looked at Asma, who had a dark face. Of course, the premise is that she first defeats Asma in the next round. Chapter 122. Although he already knew from Garashi that Summer could fly, Asma still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. Maybe Summer could only fly a few meters above the ground? Or maybe she could only fly up and down in a straight line. But now it seems that Summer Star's flying is not only unlimited, but her flying skills are also very flexible. In a situation where his opponent had the air advantage, his next match would undoubtedly be very difficult. Facing the ninja from another village, Ibixi showed a rare concern. Asma, are you confident? Asma flipped his hair. Not at all. Ibixi's mouth twitched. Then why do you look so confident? Asuma gave him a sideways glance. I'm a man who can die 12 times in a minute. This little bit of pressure is nothing to me. If you have the ability, let her kill me in a second like Shushi. Ibixi instantly retreated, muttering to himself, so as long as I don't feel any pressure, nothing can defeat me? The next few matches were not interesting to watch, and soon the tournament entered the third round. The first match was enough to excite the audience. Because this match was between the most hidden Sand Crypsis, Marky, and the most talented Woodleaf, Garashi. Marky was still hiding his strength in the previous two matches. This time he will finally show his true strength, right? Yes, it seems that his previous hiding was all for this moment. This must be a high-level match, don't blink. Compared to the excitement of the audience, the Sand Crypsis camp was silent. Brother Marky, rest in peace. Be strong. It's okay, it's not shameful to lose. Marky's face darkened. If it weren't for you bastards talking nonsense, the people outside wouldn't have praised him so much. Jonan Zhongliang comforted her. Use your doppelganger and close your eyes the whole time. Try not to be affected by his genjutsu and hold on for a little longer. With Yunin and Kirin at the bottom, you won't lose too badly. Marky smiled bitterly. He was considered a genius in the Sand Crypsis, and he had cultivated for a few more years than them. But when he came here, he realized that there were too many geniuses in this world. Now, even his teacher only wanted him to hold on a little longer. Fortunately, we still have the Rock Crypsis at the bottom. Marky felt a little comforted at this thought. The two of them entered the arena. Seeing Garashi's calm expression, Marky's breathing quickened. Only by standing here could he truly understand the pressure Empress Shomiai and the others had to endure. When the referee announced the start of the match, Marky subconsciously closed his eyes, and then created sand clones, shooting shurikens at Garashi from all directions. While Garashi nimbly dodged, his hands didn't stop making hand seals. Genjutsu, Sanskrit. In just 1 second, Marky stopped attacking with a look of great realization. Then he fell straight down. He didn't even struggle like Empress Shomiai. Seeing this situation, the Kages on the stage weren't surprised. After Empress Shomiai was defeated by a genjutsu, they knew what the result would be. But even so, they were still a little shocked. What a monster, it seems that only Yunin and Yuki can defeat him. However, the audience on the stage was in an uproar. That's it? That's it? Who said that this would be a fierce battle? I really can't blink, I just blinked once, I don't know how that Sand Crypsis Marky lost. However, some pure passers-by spread the news under the arrangement of a certain Kage. You still don't understand? Of course, Marky deliberately fell for the genjutsu in order to preserve Shimizu Garashi's strength. Sand Crypsis ninja, let's be honest, Marky definitely went easy on him. The Sand Crypsis merchants came uninvited for 30 years, Marky must still be hiding his strength. Hearing these explanations, the audience finally understood. No wonder he fell for the genjutsu even with his eyes closed. Hiss. It seems that Sand Crypsis has really allied with Woodleaf. Amidst these exclamations of surprise and suspicion, the referee slowly announced, The winner of the first match of the third round is Woodleaf Shimizu Garashi. The second match, Woodleaf Asma vs Hidden Star Summer Star. Asma rubbed his fists and jumped down, looking at his opponent provocatively. Don't think that you'll win just because you can fly. Summer Star shook his head slightly. You're very strong. Even if I use the secret flying technique, I only have a small chance of winning. The battle began. Asuma held the chakra blade and quickly rushed to the opposite side, wanting to take advantage of the fact that Xia Rixing has not yet flown into the air and shoot her down. However, Summer Star saw through his intentions and used a mimicry attack to block him for a moment, while she herself took the opportunity to fly into the sky. How troublesome. Asma finished the cigarette in his mouth in one breath, then spat out a thick cloud of ash. Fire release, ash accumulation burn. Suddenly, a thick cloud of ash enveloped the entire arena. Summer Star was unable to determine Asma's position, so he could only fly in the sky to avoid being treated as a live target. At this moment, the cloud of ash burned fiercely, stirring up a tornado of flames that swallowed Summer Star. At the same time, Summer Star quickly flew away, and controlled a chakra dragon to knock away the fire tornado. Asterisk boom. Asterisk the explosion of flames shot in all directions, and then a chakra blade spun out of the flames and shot towards Summer Star. He can actually control a ninja tool from such a distance. Summer Star sighed in her heart. Under her control, the mimicry chakra dragon turned into a wall of light that blocked the chakra blade. It's not over yet. After a loud roar, another tornado rose into the sky. But what was different this time was that Asuma had pushed himself forward. Is this the final battle? Summer Star reluctantly split off another chakra dragon and rushed towards Asma. She had to maintain her wings of light while condensing a wall of light to block, and now she had to control a third chakra dragon. This was already her limit. However, Asuma, who was constantly shouting, was bitten by the chakra dragon and turned into smoke with a bang sound. This is a shadow clone? Then his real body is... Summer Star was shocked and hurriedly looked down at the arena. At this moment, a slight sound of something breaking through the air came from behind her. It's that chakra blade. Summer Star was still at a disadvantage due to her lack of experience. Only now did she realize where the problem was. Asma, who had returned to his original form, broke through the wall of light and grabbed the chakra blade towards Summer Star. Whoosh. Because he couldn't borrow any force from the air, Asma's attack only managed to cut a small part of Summer Star's sleeve before falling down. But even so, Summer Star was still scared out of her wits. Too strong as expected of Woodleaf's genius ninja. Just as Summer Star was preparing for Asma's next attack, she saw Asma shrug. Alright, I admit defeat. Summer Star was shocked. Wait, shouldn't I be the one at a disadvantage now? I've already used all the anti-air attacks I can think of, so there's no need to continue fighting. Asma said this, but in his heart he thought, I'm not stupid. If I really won, wouldn't I have to face Garashi? Chapter 123. Another one. In the stands, Reikage was quite depressed. Cloud Village's genin level wasn't less than Konoha's, but in terms of elite genin level, the gap between them was too big. Metke, Kurenai, Asma. Almost everyone could beat Yunin's genin in all aspects. Not to mention Woodleaf and Shimizu Garashi, these completely unreasonable monsters. Thinking of this, Reikage couldn't help but ask sourly, Naruto, you must have a special method to train so many excellent ninjas, right? It's rare for everyone to get together, you can't be stingy. Sandame asked in surprise, do geniuses need special training? Seeing Reikage's face turn black, Sandame suddenly understood, I know, it must be because of the book I wrote, The Extension and Expansion of the Will of Fire, which allowed them to understand the inheritance of the will of fire, so they studied hard and finally became excellent ninjas. Speaking of this, Sandame very enthusiastically pulled Reikage. By the way, Reikage, do you want to take a few books back to promote? Rest assured, for the sake of the friendship between the two countries, I won't take any money. Reikage pointed tremblingly at Sandame, he almost couldn't breathe. A certain Kazekage on the side was stunned, he learned it. Although Reikage was shrewd and insidious, he wanted to take advantage of Woodleaf's training experience, but compared to Naruto he was obviously weaker. Not to mention that he was casually beaten back, he was also disgusted, he was completely at a disadvantage in terms of momentum. Raza secretly shook his head. Compared to the seniors, I still have a lot to learn. While they were talking, the third game had already begun. Unfortunately, Genjutsu is ineffective on me. Yuki's voice was cold, he stood calmly. I know, but I still want to try. Kurenai's face was tense, she looked very dignified. Kurenai began to make hand seals, Yuki just watched quietly, he didn't even make a move to stop her. Genjutsu, Sakura Nai Jutsu. Yuki's eyes were dazed for a moment, but he quickly regained his clarity. Seeing this scene, Red thought to herself, sure enough, she's not absolutely immune to illusions. Without hesitation, Red raised her hand to the referee and said, I admit defeat. He admitted defeat so quickly. Did he come here to test me? Yuki's gaze subconsciously drifted towards the warm and sunny young man on the spectator stand. If it were you, how would you take on this battle? Most of the spectators on the viewing platform were confused. Then someone started to explain. Let's put it this way. Yuki has a second force in her body that can help her break the illusion. Therefore, the illusion is ineffective against her. What? Then wouldn't Shimizu Garashi's strongest point be crippled? Although his illusions are definitely more powerful than that little girl's, illusions are still illusions. There's no way to change his own limitations. Well, it seems that the first place of the Chunin exam has been determined. In the midst of these regretful voices, Red sat back down beside Shushi and said in a low voice, Shushi, she needs a certain amount of time to completely dispel the illusion. However, this time is very short. Garashi nodded slightly and accepted Red's kindness. I understand, thank you. Red raised her small fist and said, then you must win. It didn't take long for the third round to be completed. The first round of the fourth round would leave Shimizu Garashi versus Hoshino Xiaxing. Not many people paid attention to this match. After all, for most people, it's just a matter of a moment. The match began. Although I'm a bit overconfident, I still want to boldly challenge him. Xiaxing said and flew to the sky. If I'm not mistaken, I should be the one in trouble this time. Shushi smiled bitterly as he began to perform hand seals. Genjutsu, heart erosion. Xiaxing's flying movement stagnated for a moment, but in the next moment she regained her mobility. Seeing this situation, Garashi was helpless. Sure enough, your chakra is too active. He's like a master of controlling dreams. As long as the opponent is a little sleepy, he has countless means to make them fall instantly. But the problem is that Xiaxing's current situation is that she's too excited to fall asleep. No matter how many means he has to control the dream, it's difficult to have an effect on Xiaxing. Although he's not completely helpless, it's too troublesome and inconsistent with his original intention of showing his strength. Seeing this, the spectator stands were boiling. Is this a lie? Kirin, Empress Shomiai and San Cripsis Marki couldn't break the genjutsu, but she actually broke it. Does she have a second power in her body like Yuki? Now that Shimizu Garashi's genjutsu is ineffective, and Xiaxing has the advantage in the air, she won't be an upset again, right? Is that Hokage ninja really going to make a comeback all the way to the finals? A match that no one cared about suddenly became popular. Of course, for some people who know Garashi's strength, such a change is not worth paying attention to at all. Even asthma can make her unable to resist, not to mention Shimizu Garashi. Xiaxing also knows this, so she never thought of winning, she just wanted to hold on for a while and show the ninja world the power of Hokage. So what will you do? Xiaxing looked down vigilantly, and then saw Garashi take out a large number of shurikens from his tool bag. Although there are many ways, this should be the easiest one, Shushi thought to himself. Then he threw out all the shurikens. Is it going to appear? The second Naruto's jutsu. Kitsuchi's eyes suddenly became dignified. The light wings behind Xiaxing flapped, and a gust of wind surged, instantly making the shurikens lose their aim. But before she could breathe a sigh of relief, the shurikens that fell to the side suddenly accelerated, circled around, and shot towards her from all directions. Although they are controlled remotely, their flexibility is not inferior to that of a real person, and in just a few rounds they force Xiaxing into a corner. This technique of controlling chakra. If he wants, maybe he can become a top puppeteer. Damn it, why are all the geniuses in Wood Leaf? Raza's heart was full of regret, but suddenly his pupils shrank. This is so powerful. Just by relying on this remote control ninja tool, it's difficult for me to resist. Xiaxing also sighed. Compared to Asma, who can only control chakra from a distance, Shimizu Garashi's remote attack is simply hell mode. But at this moment, she noticed from the corner of her eye that Garashi has disappeared. Without waiting for her to react, she felt a pain in her back, and the chaotic chakra couldn't continue, and the light wings dissipated and fell down. Fortunately, Garashi pulled her back when she was about to hit the ground. Seeing this scene, Reikage, who was sulking, almost spat out a mouthful of saliva. Is this the Flying Thunder God Jutsu? Sandaime smiled and nodded. It's just an S-class ninjutsu, not worth mentioning, not worth mentioning. Reikage couldn't help but sigh, letting a genin who learned the Flying Thunder God Jutsu participate in the Chunin exam. Only you and I are shameless. Sandaime wasn't angry and said with a smile. No, 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 you are more shameless. The Mizukage began to doubt his life. Wait, what are we doing here? Is it to suppress other villages or to send Zabuza to his death? Chapter 124. It turned out to be a spacetime ninjutsu. It's amazing. Yahiko slapped Nagato's thigh hard. He was excited but also a little emotional. Compared with the 5 great ninja villages, we are still far behind. Nagato looked aggrieved. It's okay to be far behind, why do you have to hit me? Yahiko said, I'm the leader, if I don't hit you, do you want to hit me? Conan interrupted and asked, who do you think will win, him or Yunin's Yuki? I think it will be Garashi. Yahiko rubbed his chin. If I have to say a reason, it's a man's intuition. On the other side. Bordered Soil's eyes widened. Isn't that Minato-sensei's Flying Thunder God Jutsu? How come Garashi-sen also knows it? Kakashi subconsciously clenched his fist. As expected of senpai, even if you just pause a little, I can't even see your back. After knowing the power of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu from some passers-by, the crowd changed again. As expected of Woodleaf, it seems that the final winner will be Shimizu Garashi. Ignorant, do you know what a Jinchuriki is? I don't know. In this regard, I can only say that I know what I know, and if I don't know, you won't understand. I can only say that the water is very deep, and the news in the ninja world has been deleted. Hearing the discussion around him, another Yunin's ninja who entered the top 4 but didn't have a name was about to cry. I haven't fought yet, can't you show me some respect? Then he was defeated at the speed of light. The final. My hunch at the beginning was right, the final will be between the 2 of us. Yuki's small face was red, and her cold voice was a little excited. So, please be sure to give us a wonderful fight. Garashi smiled and encouraged. Are you worried that I'm still struggling to resist the power of the bijou? You're so gentle. Too bad you're Woodleaf's ninja. Yuki sighed in his heart. Then he said energetically, you have to be careful. This time I will fight with all my might. That's great. After all, what I want is a shocking battle. Garashi smiled. Come on, I will also use all of my strength. Yuki calmed himself down, and strange blue patterns began to appear on the surface of his body. Chakra surged wildly and 10 sharp claws extended from his fingertips. Is it purely borrowing chakra and not entering the Ichibi state? Garashi thought to himself, it seems that even if second last is willing to lend her chakra, her body won't be able to take it. Once you enter that state, it means you have to fight with your life on the line. All of a sudden Yuki bent his legs like a spring. At the next moment he stomped on the ground forcefully, causing a spider web of cracks to spread. He then made use of the recoil to fly out rapidly. Garashi subconsciously took out his kunai to block the attack. With a loud clang, the kunai was smashed into pieces by the cat's claws that were as hard as iron. Although it only blocked the attack for a moment, it was enough for Garashi. He dodged the attack by a hair's breadth and quickly made a hand seal to counterattack. Wind escape, breakthrough. Although Garashi hadn't been practicing the 5 elements escape technique for a long time, it was enough for him to master most of the low-level escape techniques. Under the strong wind, the iron shavings shot towards Yuki like a drizzle. Yuki opened his mouth and spat out a fire rat jade, which instantly melted all the iron shavings. Garashi sighed in pity. He initially wanted to use the iron shavings to teleport over. However, he didn't expect that the miniature Flying Thunder God mark that he left behind would be discovered. Yuki looked at him coldly and spat out more than 10 chakra balls. They were like will-the-wisps and flew towards Garashi under her control. Garashi didn't dare to delay. He quickly made a hand seal and spat out a water gun from his mouth. The will-o-the-wisps didn't extinguish after being hit by the water. Instead, they exploded and instantly evaporated into a white fog that shrouded the entire place. Over there. Yuki's ears twitched and she quickly waved her claws in the direction where she heard it. However, at the next moment she flew back at an even faster speed. It's the same power as that guy with thick eyebrows. However, it's not as strong as him. Yuki stabilized herself and kept her guard up. The power that she borrowed from second last was actually equalized. Garashi walked out of the fog calmly. Although there were only 3 gates, it was enough for him now. The two of them exchanged glances and simultaneously chose to attack each other using the simplest and most brutal physical techniques. They were both extremely fast and the audience could no longer tell who was who. All they could see was the two of them colliding continuously. On one side, Yuki's sharp claws tore through her chest while on the other side, Garashi retaliated with a heavy punch. In just tens of seconds, the two of them were already covered in wounds and their clothes were soaked in blood. It was as if they were about to collapse at any time. However, that wasn't the case at all in the eyes of those who were sharper. One of them used the power of the tailed beast to heal her wounds quickly while the other used Yin healing technique to heal her wounds in advance. The wounds looked terrifying, but in fact, they would have scabbed over if they had been a few minutes later. Marky, who was watching from the spectator stand, was already dumbfounded. Ninjutsu, genjutsu, physical techniques. Any one of them can kill me instantly. Is this the world of true geniuses? Mizuki, on the other hand, hated himself for being weak. Damn it, if only I could complete Orochimaru's experiment in advance, I might have been able to clear the obstacles for Garashi in the examination. After the afterimages collided again, the two of them stopped panting heavily. I didn't expect your medical ninjutsu to be so strong. This is the first time I've been unable to gain any advantage from exchanging blows with my opponent while borrowing Second Last's power. Yuki's chest heaved up and down and she wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth with the back of her hand. However, you should be running out of chakra soon, right? Garashi didn't deny it. Indeed. Yuki raised her head smugly. Although I don't have any left, I can still borrow chakra. What a coincidence, I can too. Garashi chuckled and touched his forehead with his thumb. In the next moment, a steady stream of chakra surged out of his body. Yin seal release. The Yin seal was only used to store and extract chakra. It didn't consume the user's lifespan. Only the Yin seal's creation and regeneration would. Therefore, Garashi didn't have much to worry about. As for the chakra that he had stored, he could just replenish it with the tool fox after the battle. Seeing this, even the jonins were about to go crazy. How many tricks does this little imp have? He even has a ninjutsu that can replenish chakra. This is... Yuki's eyes widened. Suddenly, there was an angry roar in the space of consciousness. Meow. This little imp really has the smell of that stinky fox. Yuki, I'll lend you another portion of my power. You must beat him until he cries. Chapter 125. Accompanied by Second Last's menacing roar, a strong and abundant energy surged into Yuki's weak body. Stupid cat, why are you giving me so much chakra at once? The huge amount of chakra made Yuki's face turn red. As soon as she opened her mouth, chakra was released. In order to release as much chakra as possible, Yuki opened her mouth and spat out a huge ball of flames. Although it looked like an enhanced version of the Great Fireball technique, Garashi could feel the heat and agitation of this ball of flames. If he were to accidentally come into contact with the flames, he would probably end up in a terrible state. In the blink of an eye, Garashi hurriedly dived into the ground to avoid the attack. Boom. With a loud explosion, flames soared into the sky. Even though Garashi was underground, he could feel the tremors of the earth and the heat of the flames. It was as if the ground was about to melt. In fact, there was indeed a huge crater with a diameter of more than 10 meters in the arena. At the bottom of the crater, there were still flames that had yet to burn out. Seeing this, the villagers on the spectator stand were terrified. Were these two people monsters? Even the arena was about to be destroyed by them. Over there. Yuki stood in the embers and scanned her surroundings. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she sprinted in the direction that she sensed. Her sharp claws slid across the ground and tore the ground apart as easily as cutting tofu. However, after the ground was torn apart, what appeared in her line of sight was not Garashi's figure, but a mouthful of corrosive acid. Yuki was alarmed. She spat out a mouthful of will-o'-the-wisp to block the attack and jumped back as quickly as possible. Sizzle, sizzle, part of the acid evaporated and part of it fell to the ground. It was instantly corroded by the charred soil. Seeing this scene, Yuki couldn't help but feel frightened. At this time, a soft voice came from the expanding hole. Hey, let me see who's bullying Lord Garashi. Following that, an adorable head popped out from the ground. When it saw the Yuki, the antennae on its head immediately retracted. Ah, what a terrifying aura. Will I be killed? No, I have to be strong and brave. With the Yin seal removed, Garashi could summon an even more powerful slug. However, considering the limitations of the arena, he could only summon a slug that was half the size of the arena. Even so, it was already shocking enough. Yuki's eyes were dazed. So big. Although the slug in front of her had only poked its head out, the tentacles that were exposed were bigger than hers. One could imagine how huge the body of the slug was hidden underground. On the spectator's stand, Purple Earth, who had already become a genin, trembled. This psychic beast is probably 1/3 the size of all snakes. What scared him even more was that Shushi, who was stepping on the slug's head, didn't seem tired at all. Did that mean that Shushi could summon a stronger psychic beast like the Snake Dowager? Slug, please cover for me. Yes. Garashi leaped down from the slug's head and pressed the Rasengan towards Yuki. Is this the Muji ninjutsu that he developed? It's really amazing. Feeling the huge energy contained in the chakra ball, Yujito-ni's heart was full of admiration. Although she could also release ninjutsu instantaneously, she could only do so with the help of Second Last's power. The thunder-released ninjutsu that she had mastered was far from that. Needless to say, he had developed it when he was 6 years old. Even Second Last couldn't help but praise in the sealed space. Even in my long life, this human imp's talent is ranked in the top 5. Those thoughts flashed through Yuki's mind. In the outside world, she was waving her claws and facing Garashi's attack head-on. All of a sudden, a stream of acid was sprayed towards her from a distance. Yuki had no choice but to stop attacking and dodge to the left. However, Garashi seized the opportunity and forced her into a disadvantageous position. That was not the end of it. The giant slug was like a stationary cannon. As soon as she thought of retaliating, it would immediately spray acid at her. What made Yuki the most frustrated was that the slug's acid was too accurate. Clearly, both of them were fighting in close combat, but the acid did not affect Garashi's attacks at all. That discovery made Yuki extremely envious. Big Cat, look how well they cooperate. Matatabi looked at her in disdain. Go outside and look for other cats then? Yuki chuckled awkwardly and looked at the slug with a sullen expression. We have to get rid of his spiritual beast first. In Yuki's opinion, the gigantic slug was just like a live target in the arena. It was not difficult to get rid of it, but the key was to break through Garashi's defense. Yuki dodged the attacks while thinking of a solution. 2 minutes later, she decided to give up. Big Cat, hurry and think of a solution for me. Matatabi knew that the situation was critical too. Hence, she said, my spiritual cat's howl can shock the soul, but I'm in a sealed state now. This human imp's soul is unexpectedly strong too. I reckon we can only buy a moment. A moment is enough. Yuki obviously didn't think that she could defeat Garashi in an instant. However, she reckoned that she could seize the opportunity to deal with his spiritual beast. Get ready then. While speaking, the face of a blue spiritual cat flashed across Yuki's fair and tender face. Meow. He actually forced Second Last to take the initiative to cooperate. How much pressure did this imp put on them? Reikage noticed the change and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. All of a sudden, his eyes narrowed. She's already awake, why didn't she chase after him? On the arena, Garashi stood still calmly and took advantage of the gap to condense the Rasengan. Then everyone watched in horror as the chakra ball in his palm expanded rapidly. Yuki didn't notice the change behind her and simply smacked her claws down excitedly. The great slug split. The head of the giant slug suddenly split into countless smaller slugs that fled in all directions, leaving Yuki dumbfounded. But at this moment she felt a cold touch on her arm. Yujito-ni turned her head and saw a little slug jumping onto her body in the process of splitting and escaping. Her pupils constricted after just one glance. This is the mark of the Flying Thunder God technique. When did it happen? Yuki subconsciously got ready to throw the smaller slug away. However, she suddenly heard a strange sound behind her. Yuki was stunned for a moment when she heard the sound, but she snapped back to her senses at the next moment. However, it was too late. Garashi had teleported over with the help of the Flying Thunder God technique and pressed the Odama Rasengan on her body. Boom. Yuki's body flew out like a cannonball, creating a crater on the wall. Chapter 126. When Yuki's body was smashed into the wall, even the spectator stand trembled slightly. Seeing this, the spectators on the stage felt that it was unreal. Did she win? Are you kidding me? That's a Jinchuriki. Monster, both of them are monsters. In the midst of these discussions, the chakra on Yuki's body began to go berserk. Not only did it attach to the surface of her body, but it also grew a tail from her back. This discovery caused many people to cry out in alarm. How can she still fight? Moreover, I feel that her aura seems to have become stronger. Is she the kind of monster that can become infinitely stronger as long as she doesn't die? On the stage, Rakage looked to the side and asked with bad intentions. Do you want me to stop this exam? If this continues, I'm afraid that Woodleaf's genius will be killed. Sandaime was still smiling. Let's leave the choice to the children. I believe that Garashi can handle this kind of small situation. Not only Rakage but even the other Kage couldn't help but look to the side. This is already the sign of tailed beast transformation and you call this a small situation? Although they wanted to ridicule, when they thought of Shimizu Garashi's performance in the exam, they held back. That kind of monster can't be treated with common sense. Spit after hitting. On the stage, Garashi calmly watched this scene unfold. Just like attacking a boss in a game, only when the boss transforms in the final stage, then it's time to start attacking. Under Garashi's calm gaze, Yuki rushed towards him without any warning. Even Guy, who had opened 4 gates, was surpassed in speed. One could imagine how fast Yujito Ren was in this state. Even Garashi didn't want to compete in speed with the opponent. Using the technique that he arranged on the little slug in advance, Garashi instantly moved to the other side of the stage. The Yuki stomped lightly on the ground and used the recoil to change direction in time. He tore through the air and pounced towards Garashi. As the space was too small and the Yuki was too fast, Garashi did not even have time to catch his breath. Every time he teleported over, he would see the Yuki pouncing on him. For a moment, everyone could only see 2 blurry white lights turning back and forth around the arena. Damn it, what's the situation now? Bordered Soil sat on the spectator stand, biting his collar nervously. Amazing. My visual nerves can barely keep up with their movements. Kakashi muttered to himself in shock. Hearing this, Bordered Soil quickly asked, Kakashi, who has the upper hand now? The Yuki have the upper hand, but I still feel that something is not right. Kakashi muttered, Senpai is not the kind of person who would take a beating without fighting back. In the arena, the chase and escape continued. Although this mode of his was a heavy burden on his body and could not be maintained for too long, Yuki was not impatient. Even if you can borrow the Kyubi's chakra, you are not a Jinchuriki. If you use such a powerful ninjutsu too often, you will not be able to hold on before me. It's about time. Garashi calculated in his heart, then stopped in the middle position without dodging. Although he did not understand why Garashi gave up on escaping, Yuki would not let go of this opportunity. His body flashed and he turned into a flash of lightning and rushed towards his opponent. Rasengan. Catch Sharp Claw. Without any suspense, the Rasengan was torn apart along with Garashi's body. Torn apart? Yuki was stunned as he saw Garashi's body turn into smoke and dissipate. Then the headless slug, whose body was still buried underground, suddenly rushed out of the ground and attacked. Yuki was also caught off guard by this attack. For a moment, he forgot his previous lesson and subconsciously waved his claws at the slug. Great Slug Division. Previously, many small slugs had split out from his head. This time it was his entire body. The lively little slugs almost filled Yuki's entire line of sight. At this moment, a figure suddenly rushed out from the slug's line of sight. Mystical Art, Otama Rasengan. The Otama Rasengan, which was even more powerful than the previous one, pressed down on her body. Then Yuki was once again sent flying heavily against the wall. Boom. Bang. This time the wall did not just have a hole in it. Instead, it cracked open and a large part of the wall collapsed. The spectators who were close to this side screamed in shock. Fortunately, the Jonin hurriedly stepped in and used Earth Release to temporarily support the broken part of the wall. At this time, the spectators who were still in shock finally had the time to see the situation clearly. Garashi, who had a few eye lines on his face, was standing quietly. Yuki, on the other hand, was crawling out of the rubble. Even if he was in Ichibi mode, such serious injuries would not be easily healed in a short period of time. However, Yuki did not care. She only looked at Garashi in shock. So your main body has been hiding in the summoned beast's body all this time. Yuki now understood that the chakra connection between Garashi and the summoned beast had interfered with her senses. That was why she was unable to detect the existence of Garashi's main body. Of course, this was also related to Garashi's shadow clone jutsu. No one would have thought that Garashi's shadow clone jutsu could entangle her for so long. However, this kind of injury is not enough to make me bow my head. Yuki gritted her teeth and stood up. Then she rushed forward with explosive speed. However, Garashi's speed this time was even faster than hers. His fist contained monstrous strength. With the addition of Sage Mode and Hashiman Tanku, it displayed an incomparably terrifying strength. It destroyed Yuki once again. Boom. Yuki was heavily smashed into the rubble. Then she struggled to stand up. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? My strength and speed are obviously, Yuki said. Then she finally noticed the change in Garashi's body. Is it because of that eye tattoo? Garashi didn't comment. He just smiled and said, now the result should be obvious, right? It seems that I lost. Yuki smiled bitterly. Suddenly her expression changed. After a painful roar, the chakra in her body overflowed once again. It was like a dam had been opened. In the blink of an eye, the surging chakra went straight into the sky, covering the sky and almost changing the weather. Yuki's unconscious roar made many people bleed from their ears and noses. This time, not only the ordinary villagers, but also the jonins of the villages were frightened. Are you kidding me? That monster will destroy this place. What the hell is going on? Didn't we just watch a Chunin exam? Compared to the changes in front of them, the collapse of the wall was completely a small scene. Reikage was also in a dilemma. Things were finally developing in the direction he wanted to see the most. However, Yuki's current physical condition was not in the plan. If she forced herself to transform into Nibi, her body might collapse. Should she let Woodleaf experience destruction? Or should she protect the village? She's so angry that she wants to break the seal. It seems that this guy has suffered a lot in front of Kyubi. Garashi was not surprised. With Kurama's bad character, it would be strange if she could get along well with other tailed beasts. However, it's not a good habit to vent your anger. Besides, you've picked the wrong target. Shushi used the body flicker jutsu to rush in front of Yujito-ni. While she was in a frenzy and unconscious state, he spread out his fingers and quickly pressed them on her lower abdomen. 4-symbol seal. Nibi let out an unwilling roar and was sealed back into Yuki's body. Meow, I'll be back. Chapter 127. Forget it, this is good. Seeing that Garashi made the decision for him, Reikage no longer hesitated, but the next moment he stared at Garashi. Wait, that kid also knows sealing jutsu? You know, a jutsu that can seal a tailed beast is definitely not a low-level jutsu. They are yunin, but every time they seal a tailed beast they don't dare to be careless. How can they be as relaxed as this kid? Although it was partly because second last had been sealed, he was still in disbelief. Sandame-sama sighed and pretended to be angry. That kid is good at everything, but he has too many hobbies. Tell me, why would a medical ninja like him want to learn Fujitsu? I shouldn't have asked him. Reikage's face turned black as if he had eaten a fly. The Mizukage was also uncomfortable. Obviously, they proposed to hold the Chunin exam, but they didn't have a sense of existence in the whole process. They felt like they were here to serve as a foil to Woodleaf and Yunin. Although his heart was bleeding, the Mizukage still forced himself to not lose. Forget it, at least we found a genius like Empress Shomiai. It's not a loss. Raza, who didn't have much expectation for the Chunin exam from the beginning, also calculated in his heart. This time, we formed an alliance with Woodleaf to fight against Rock Crypsis. It's not a loss. Only Kitsuchi, who was almost forgotten, was crying silently. We shouldn't have come, we shouldn't have come. As for the villagers on the spectator stands, they burst into deafening cheers when they saw the demonic cat's shadow being sealed. Great, I thought I was going to be killed. A 10-year-old Woodleaf genin can defeat Yunin's Jinchuriki, and even forcibly seal a tailed beast. Woodleaf's strength is really not comparable to other villages. It seems, it's time for us to make a choice. Oh, Garashi-senpai is really handsome, worthy of being the pride of our ninja school. What a terrifying talent. It seems that it won't be long before another powerful ninja like the Sannin appears in Woodleaf. Under normal circumstances, a Chunin exam wouldn't cause such a big sensation. But due to the intervention of Jinchuriki, the standard of this exam can no longer be measured by normal combat power. This also made the merchant ninjas from all over the world remember one name, Shimizu Garashi. Sandame also stood up with a smile and announced loudly, the final winner of this Chunin exam is Woodleaf, Shimizu Garashi. Of course, other candidates shouldn't be discouraged. Failure doesn't mean disqualification. After our selection, all candidates who meet the requirements of Chunin will be announced on the bulletin board. Now, please enjoy the relaxing time after the exam. At night at Yunin's hostel. Reikage-sama, there's trouble. Tsudai said with a dignified face. According to the information we have gathered after the Chunin exam, 4 or 5 small countries have contacted Woodleaf. They're just fence-sitters, don't worry about it. Reikage leaned on the chair and waved his hand calmly. With their knowledge, it's not surprising that they were scared by today's battle. A said with disdain. The relatively strong small countries are okay, but the weak ones, maybe the strongest ninja in the village is not as strong as Woodleaf, of course they will be scared. Reikage sat up a little and said seriously, compared with those fence-sitters, Shimizu Garashi deserves more attention. With his talent, in just a few more years he will grow into a big problem for our Cloud Village. I also nodded seriously, what he lacks now is experience. If he survives this war he will grow at an unimaginable speed. Sudai hesitated, but he has the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, and his own medical ninjutsu is also very powerful. In this case it's difficult for us to pose a substantial threat to him, right? Reikage smiled, the Flying Thunder God Jutsu doesn't mean everything. Don't forget how Naidame Naruto died. Sudai's eyes lit up, you mean, let him be surrounded and killed like Naidame Naruto with a lot of burdens? Reikage nodded, a powerful ninjutsu like the Flying Thunder God Jutsu consumes a lot of chakra, and the amount of chakra needed to carry others with him is unimaginable. A slightly frowned, when Naidame Naruto escaped from Yunin, he consumed a lot of chakra, so there was no way to send his 6 disciples away. Naturally, we can't use this as a reference to evaluate the upper limit of Shimizu Garashi's transfer. The most important point is that today he showed the means to replenish chakra. Sudai analyzed, this is not difficult as long as we force him to open the seal before setting a trap. The reason can be the treatment after a large-scale war. I nodded, yes, if it's just a small-scale conflict, Woodleaf's medical class is enough, but in a large-scale war, Woodleaf will not ignore his power. Sudai said with some hesitation, but what if he doesn't stay behind like Naidame Naruto? Reikage laughed and said, Tai, you are still too young and naive. Didn't Woodleaf tell us the way to kill him from their white fang? I said, if he uses the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to escape alone, we will let the undercover agents spread the word that he is a coward, tarnishing the jutsu left by Naidame Naruto. Reikage squinted his eyes and smiled, words can also be used to kill people. Sudai couldn't help but clap his hands, Reikage-sama is too insidious. Finally, don't set the trap too early, otherwise the prey will notice it. To deal with this kind of genius we have to have enough patience, flatter them, confuse them and wait until they let down their guard. Reikage clenched his fist, then crushed them. Rock Crypsis is hostile. There were only 3 Rock Crypsis ninjas in the large hostel, and it was very cold and desolate. Uchi-sama, this is a major dereliction of duty. Magic Leech lowered his head with a look of shame. It's not your fault who told us Rock Crypsis to have no powerful geniuses. Kitsuchi sighed gloomily. Speaking of geniuses, Magic Leech said with a heavy face, that Shimizu Garashi is too terrible, if we let him grow, it won't be many years before he becomes another White Fang. Kitsuchi nodded, such a genius is indeed terrible, but he has mastered the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, he is not so easy to deal with. It's not that there is no way but... Magic Leech looked at Kitsuchi hesitantly, it may damage Tsuchikage-sama's reputation. Kitsuchi quickly understood, you mean dust release? Magic Leech licked his dry lips, dust release is the ultimate release as long as it hits, no matter how strong his Flying Thunder God Jutsu and medical ninjutsu are, he will die. Kitsuchi took over the topic, and to achieve this you need father to sneak attack him on the battlefield? Magic Leech was quite embarrassed, asking Tsuchikage-sama to sneak attack a genin is indeed a loss of prestige. Kitsuchi shook his head, as long as it is beneficial to Rock Crypsis, father never cares about these things. Magic Leech said with admiration, this is also why we respect Tsuchikage-sama so much. But first, we need to determine which battlefield he will appear on. Kitsuchi muttered, Kirin's position is not clear, but both Rock Crypsis and Yunin should be fighting against Woodleaf. If he is active on Yunin's battlefield, we can only hope that those idiots full of muscles will realize his threat. Chapter 128. Inside Naruto's office. Haha Kazekage-sama, it's an honor for this old man to visit. Sandaime-sama smiled, even if the other party was just a junior, he didn't have the slightest idea of taking advantage of his seniority. Naruto, Sama is too polite, I still have a lot to learn from you. Although he had a little complaint at first, after thinking it through Raza was happy. At first he was actually worried about being implicated by Woodleaf, but after thinking about it carefully with the current situation of Sand Crypsis, even if they didn't get involved with Woodleaf, they would be coveted by Rock Crypsis. After all, Sand Crypsis and Kirin are the weakest of the 5 great ninja villages, but Kirin is far away in the sea with the sea as a barrier, San Crypsis is relatively easy to be the target of invasion. Thinking about it this way, joining forces with Woodleaf doesn't seem to be a bad choice. After sitting down, Sandame-sama asked straightforwardly, Kazekage-sama should have made a decision, right? Raza pondered for a moment and asked, if we form an alliance, what guarantee can Naruto-sama give us? Sandame-sama raised his finger, information sharing, combat support, strategic cooperation, of course these guarantees are mutual. I hope San Crypsis can give us the same support. Raza shook his head, not enough, we need materials. After saying that he added, of course we will buy at the market price. Sandame-sama was surprised. Sorry, I'm not questioning anything, but I heard that the Wind Country's daimyo has been reducing your village's funds? Ahem, Naruto-sama doesn't need to worry about this. Raza was a little embarrassed. Did he have to say that his biggest role as the Kazekage was mining? How could a Kazekage become a gold miner? San Crypsis is too difficult. Since it's a request from Kazekage-sama, then I will agree. Sandame-sama didn't hesitate too much. Although materials are very important during wartime, Woodleaf is a big family after all, so it's not a loss to use some materials to win San Crypsis. As the Kage of the village, they control the direction of the village. As for the details, naturally, it's up to the people below to discuss. Therefore, after reaching a consensus, the two of them started chatting happily. As he spoke, Raza said with emotion, your village's elite ninja training level is really beyond our reach. I hope that this Chunin exam will let the people in the village recognize the gap between us and the other ninjas. Sandame-sama smiled and waved his hand. We are just lucky there are a lot of excellent gen in this exam, and I heard, isn't there a genius puppeteer genius? Speaking Raza's name. The villages he and was he s's he disappeared face in the village's view. Sasori, who disappeared at the same time as the Kazekage, was most likely killed by the same person. Thinking of this, Raza suddenly proposed, Naruto-sama, can you let your Shimizu Garashi go to San Crypsis as a guest for an exchange? Sandame-sama was a little puzzled. Why do you suddenly ask this? Raza pondered. On the one hand, I want the ninjas in the village to recognize the gap, and on the other hand, I learned some news in the past few days. News? The geniuses that emerged in this exam from Woodleaf seem to have an inseparable connection with him. Raza's expression was very surprised. One or two can be said to be accidental, but so many, I think he has the power to discover or influence the people around him. So, I hope he can come to San Crypsis as a guest and exchange with our ninjas. Sandame-sama didn't directly agree. After all, Woodleaf and San Crypsis were hostile countries in the last war. Who can guarantee that San Crypsis will take the overall situation into consideration and not attack Garashi? Therefore, Sandame-sama just yawned and said, we are now preparing for the war, how can we have time to be a guest? After the war is over, I will let Garashi be the representative of the delegation and officially go to San Crypsis. At that time, Kazekage-sama, don't be unwelcome. Raza also understood Sandame-sama's concerns, so he didn't insist. Then, as Naruto-sama said. 2 days later. In front of the Naruto building's notice. Wow, so many people passed the Chunin exam this time. There are so many geniuses in this exam. Let me see, Woodleaf Shimizu Garashi, Kurenai, Asma and Metke Yunin's 2 Yuki? Wait, Yunin's people left after the exam. Strange, they didn't wait for the results to come out. Hey, I heard that Yunin's people aren't good at sealing, so they couldn't unlock the seal that Garashi left on Yuki. They were too embarrassed to ask us to do it, so they rushed back overnight to find someone to unlock the seal for Yuki. Garashi, who was outside the crowd, smiled slightly. He didn't put the seal on Yuki out of kindness. It's like putting a lock outside the door, and he was worried that other people's houses might not be safe, so he added another lock when he passed by. This time it's safe, but the problem is that the owner of the house can't open it himself. You know, the Jinchuriki is responsible for unlocking the seal at a critical moment and dying together with the enemy. Now that the seal can't be opened, how can he be a deterrent? However, Yunin can't say anything. She can't blame him for saving her people, right? Haha, when Shizun comes back, she'll find that she's the only Chunin left. On the side, Asma smiled maliciously. If she comes back a little later, maybe we'll all be Chunin. Kurenai also covered her mouth and chuckled. Asma touched his chin. Speaking of which, the old man should call back Tsunade-sama and the others, right? Garashi chuckled softly. Maybe they're already on their way back. Outside the crowd, Marky walked over with a complicated expression. Maybe the next time we meet we'll be comrades. He now knows that Garashi may go to San Crypsis after the war is over. Because Kazekage-sama and Zhong Liang agreed that if the war lasts for 3 or 4 years, with Shimizu Garashi's talent, he will most likely be promoted to Chunin in the war, and he, as an accompanying person at that time, should also have the title of Chunin. Isn't this embarrassing for me, Marky? Before he finished, a San Crypsis ninja rushed out and shouted, Garashi-sama, we'll follow you from now on. Garashi smiled and replied, it's really reassuring to have reliable ninjas like you as companions. Marky's face turned black. Can't you bastards respect my feelings? At this moment, a feminine man with a dangerous aura came over. I'm sorry to interrupt your conversation, but I want to temporarily take Garashi-kun's time. Chapter 129. Drip, drip, accompanied by the sound of water dripping, Orochimaru and Garashi walked one after the other in the passage. The surroundings were a little dark, giving a cold feeling. Orochimaru-sama, why did you bring me here? Garashi looked around and asked. Haha, I thought Sushi-kun would be able to hold back from asking. Orochimaru laughed without turning his head. I'm sorry, it seems that my state of mind is not good enough. Garashi-kun is still as humble as before. Orochimaru stopped and turned to look at Garashi. Actually, I want to borrow your medical ninjutsu. Garashi wondered, if it's just medical ninjutsu, wouldn't Tsunade-sensei be better? If I let her know what I did, I may be killed, right? Orochimaru shrugged and continued to walk forward. Garashi followed behind. Did you do something that will make Tsunade-sensei sad? However, with Tsunade-sensei's character, even if you did something excessive, as long as you apologize seriously, you should be forgiven, right? After all, even Jiraiya-sama is alive and well. Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh. Jiraiya, that guy hasn't been killed yet, it is indeed a miracle. While talking, the two had already reached the end of the passage. Pushing the door open, there were a lot of science fiction equipment inside. At this moment, Garashi had the illusion of returning to his previous life. There were many animal specimens in the surrounding culture vessels, and in the middle of the bed, there was a familiar figure lying on it. Mizuki, he is. Garashi rushed over to check Mizuki's condition. Orochimaru didn't stop him and just quietly walked forward. What a powerful chakra, why is there in Mizuki's body? Garashi muttered to himself. It's the first Sama cell transplant. Orochimaru answered. No wonder there was such a serious rejection. Garashi looked at Orochimaru with a dignified expression. Orochimaru-sama, can you explain what happened? Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. Mizuki wants to obtain great power and the qualification to practice senjutsu from me. However, with his mediocre talent, if he wants to practice senjutsu, he can't even pass the first level of chakra requirement. So, I gave him a choice. Shushi could not help but smile bitterly. Is this the cells of the first die? Orochimaru laughed twice. Mizuki's pursuit of power is really persistent. He actually survived the first level with perseverance. This has never happened in the previous experiments. Shushi could not help but ask, before? I'm sorry to let you come into contact with the dark corner. Orochimaru took out a reagent from the experimental table next to him and said while shaking it, in order to let Wood Leaf regain the power to suppress the Kyuubi, Sensei and Danzo Elder conducted an experiment with the first Sama cells a long time ago, but due to the large number of sacrifices, Sensei had to stop the experiment and permanently seal the relevant records. Garashi was silent for a moment and asked, does Tsunade-sensei know about this? Orochimaru smiled softly, although Tsunade-sensei has never mentioned it, she has been estranged from Sensei after this incident. Orochimaru said with some emotion, she has a bad temper, but she's actually the most gentle one among the three of us. At that time I thought she would go to Sensei and Danzo to settle the score. Garashi sighed, Orochimaru-sama, are you trying to push me and Sensei against each other? Don't be too burdened, you're just trying to save people. Orochimaru explained, moreover, I'm the one who used the first Sama cells, it has nothing to do with you. Tsunade is not the kind of person who can't distinguish right from wrong. If it was an ordinary experimental subject, Orochimaru naturally wouldn't waste his breath, but Mizuki was different. After surviving the first stage, he was already a baby in Orochimaru's eyes. Garashi shook his head slightly, I'm indeed thinking too much. The duty of a medical ninja is to save people. After saying that, Shushi began to examine Shuei-mu again. This is a seal? After a while, Garashi looked to the side. It's a seal I set on Mizuki to suppress the powerful physical energy in his cells. Orochimaru explained. I need to temporarily remove the seal and observe the rejection reaction of Mizuki. You're a doctor, of course I'll listen to you. Garashi nodded slightly and carefully removed the seal. In the next moment, Shueimu's right arm began to sprout, as if he had used Jinkala to grow. Garashi's pupils shrank and he quickly sealed it. Then the tree fell from Mizuki's arm. Looking at a piece of wood that had fallen to the ground, Shushi muttered, "Such physical energy is indeed terrifying. As for the solution, I can only think of two ways. One is to suppress it with spiritual energy of the same level, and the second is to solve the rejection reaction of Mizuki's body. Spiritual energy of the same level." Orochimaru thought for a moment, then shook his head. Let's talk about the second method. The three Holy Land Senjutsu actually had the effect of enhancing ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu, but relatively speaking Mount Myaboku's senjutsu was more balanced. Shikatsu Forest leaned toward Yang style, while Ryuchi Cave leaned toward Yin style. It seems that Mizuki's senjutsu Ryuchi Cave was just right for him. However, to practice senjutsu he first had to meet the requirements of a large amount of chakra, and to obtain a large amount of chakra, he had to solve the problem of Hashirama cells, and to solve the problem of Hashirama cells, he had to suppress it with powerful spiritual energy. This became a dead knot that couldn't be untied. It's very difficult. Garashi's expression was dignified. Rejection reaction is an inevitable phenomenon after most transplant operations, but the only difference is that the rejection reaction of ordinary people is far less intense. It's hard to imagine that after so many years Shodame-sama cells still have such powerful vitality. Orochimaru's eyes were filled with enthusiasm. Unlike Danzo and the others, he valued Shodame-sama cells not because of the power of Mokutan, but because of the powerful vitality contained in those cells. Garashi-kun, is there anything I can help you with? Garashi raised his finger. First, I need to study Shodame-sama cells. Orochimaru wasn't surprised. Of course, whether you want to study it here or take some of the cells back for observation, there is no problem. Garashi nodded. In addition to the cells, I also need the data of your previous experiments, Orochimaru-sama. Orochimaru was puzzled. You also want the data of those failed experiments? Garashi chuckled softly. Even if it's a failed experiment, it can help me avoid some detours. In the memory of his previous life, Orochimaru and Danzo actually started a second experiment in private, and because all 60 experimental subjects died this time, Kuroto temporarily gave up this plan. But what Orochimaru didn't know was that one of the experimental subjects survived and was picked up by Danzo, who became Woodleaf's Green Ambassador in the future. Therefore, not all of the experimental data in his hands were failures. However, Orochimaru didn't know the twists and turns in this matter, so he quickly agreed, "No problem, I can give you all of my experimental data." "That's great, I will try my best to research the results." Chapter 130. Half a month later, in Orochimaru's underground laboratory. It only took you half a month to come up with a solution. What an amazing talent. Orochimaru said sincerely. No, it's all thanks to Orochimaru-sama's experimental data. Garashi was also sincerely grateful. My data? Orochimaru shook his head. He naturally didn't think that his data could play a key role. There were countless unknown paths, and his data was nothing more than eliminating 60 wrong answers. Thinking of this, Orochimaru was even more emotional. Perhaps it's because you always remain humble that you can see further than others. Garashi couldn't help but smile. Orochimaru-sama, shall we start the operation as soon as possible? In front of the operating table. Mizuki now knew the price Garashi might have to pay, and he was extremely ashamed. He gained the power to help Shushi, but now not only did he not help him, but he also needed Shushi's time and energy to heal him. He even risked being disliked by Tsunade-sama. Thinking of this, Mizuki slammed the bedboard. Damn it, what the hell am I doing? Garashi smiled and comforted him. Don't worry about it, just accept the treatment with peace of mind. But even Orochimaru-sama was amazed by your perseverance. You won't fall here. Holding the belief that he must not let Garashi down, Mizuki lay down with a face of death. Seeing this scene, Orochimaru couldn't help but be amazed. Just a few words could make Mizuki have such a strong belief. It was hard to imagine what kind of leadership he had. The operation was very smooth and soon Woodleaf's second green messenger was fresh out of the oven. Yes, Mizuki's wood release was almost the same as Garashi's impression of the green wood release. Orochimaru frowned. Was this the power of the first generation to pacify the warring states period? But soon he didn't care anymore. Anyway, he just wanted Mizuki's cell activity data. Shuei-mu, on the other hand, was extremely excited. In his opinion, this level of power was already powerful enough. Needless to say, he had finally fulfilled the requirements of chakra, and finally, he was even closer to Garashi's back. Although I don't want to dampen your interest, it's best if you don't use wood escape. Looking at Shuei-mu's excited face, Orochimaru poured a bucket of cold water on him. Otherwise it will be very troublesome to explain. Shuei-mu also calmed down. Indeed, although the bloodline limit could be developed with his talent, even if he said that he had developed it, no one would believe him. Thinking up to this point, Shuei-mu could not help but feel somewhat dejected. He had finally obtained a powerful strength, yet he had no way of using it. I understand. I will, Garashi suddenly interrupted. It just so happens that I have water and earth in my attributes. Why don't you let me develop Woodward style and then tell the public that I taught it to water and wood? Orochimaru looked at him in surprise. Garashi-kun, it's not easy to develop bloodline limit. Shuei-mu also hurriedly said, Garashi, don't waste your energy on me. Garashi waved his hand and smiled. In fact, I also saw Empress Shomiai develop bloodline limit during the Chunin exam. That's why I had such a bold idea. She can succeed without any reference. I have Shuei-mu's help, so it should be easier than her. Or, Mizuki, you don't want to help me? Garashi must have said this to take care of my feelings. Mizuki was moved and shook his head again and again. Of course not. Although I don't know how to help, Garashi, I will do whatever you say. Orochimaru was a little helpless. The only one who can make me believe that it's easy to develop bloodline limit is you, Garashi-kun. Garashi smiled and said, just think of it as the arrogance of young people. Orochimaru smiled and turned away. It's arrogance to believe that. Would release. Garashi sighed and followed him out. It doesn't matter whether the wood release is strong or not, but the symbolic meaning is worth developing. If he can use it one night in the future. 2 days later, in the Naruto building's conference room. Naruto, Naruto's advisor, and the village's jonin gathered together, and the atmosphere was very dignified. Just this morning, Yunin said that they will take the initiative to send troops to maintain the peace of the shinobi world. Sandaime was speechless. There's also the Rock Village. They said that we plotted to kill the Sandaime Kazekage and supported the Yondaime Kazekage as a puppet, and now they want to send troops to help the Sand Village. Danzo sneered, aren't they ashamed to say such a reason? Mitokado sighed, although I want to try my best to fight for peace, it seems impossible. Sandaime nodded, don't have any more illusions. I hereby declare that the war has officially begun. All the jonins in the conference room were short of breath. Even for them, the weight of the word war was too heavy. Seeing that no one objected, Sandaime continued, in order to deal with this war, we need to form 2 fronts, one east and one west. The west front will be led by Shimura Danzo, assisted by Akimichi Takei, mainly to deal with the threat from Rock Crypsis. The east front will be led by Orochimaru, assisted by... Sandaime hesitated for a moment. Minato, assisted by Yunin. As soon as his words fell, there was a commotion in the conference room. Compared to the other 3, Minato's weight was obviously not enough. Danzo frowned but did not speak. In his opinion, the east front was losing and he could turn the tide. Minato awkwardly raised his hand. Naruto-sama, why don't you give the role of assistant to someone with more experience? Sandaime tapped his pipe. Don't refuse, I believe you can do it well. Without giving Minato a chance to refute, Sandaime continued, in addition to the 2 fronts, we need to form a reconnaissance team, led by Hayashi Hyuga, a surprise team, led by Fugaku Uchiha, a staff team, led by Shikaku Nara, a perception team, led by Yamanaka Inoichi, and a medical logistics team, led by Nanoyu. Is there a problem? Everyone looked at each other, and Hayashi raised his hand and asked, Naruto-sama, how are we going to participate in the 2 fronts? Sandaime explained, this is up to you to arrange. You can send teams to the 2 fronts to assist in the war. Hayashi nodded, then I have no problem. Sandaime looked around, what about you? Any other questions? Orochimaru asked, what about Jiraiya and Tsunade? They are an indispensable fighting force for the village. Sandaime replied, Jiraiya and Tsunade are on the way to recall them. At this time, Nanoyu asked with some embarrassment, Naruto-sama, since Tsunade-sama is returning to Woodleaf, shouldn't Tsunade-sama be the captain of the medical logistics team? The others didn't speak, but Danzo's small eyes stared. Letting a medical ninja with hematophobia be the medical captain? What are you thinking? Tsunade has hematophobia, but her slug doesn't. Sandame said with dissatisfaction, and then said to Nanoyu, but Danzo is right, compared to Tsunade, you are the most suitable person to be the captain of the medical logistics team. Seeing this, Nanoyu had to agree. Then, I will work hard. Chapter 131. The next day in Woodleaf Hospital. The hospital, which used to be calm and peaceful, was also a little nervous and anxious because of the war. In an office. Aunt Yayoi Kotoko-san Yumiko-san, are you also selected to go to the battlefield? Garashi asked with some worry. After all, only a small part of the people left in Woodleaf, but as medical ninjas, even if we go to the battlefield, we will only treat the wounded in the rear. Yayoi explained and turned to worry about Garashi. But Garashi, you seem to be going to the front line to fight, right? Garashi nodded. I now belong to the 7th team of the Eastern Front, of course I have to go to the front line to fight. Kotoko said angrily, this is too reckless, Garashi, you only graduated half a year ago. Yumiko was worried. Garashi, why don't you ask to be transferred to our medical logistics force? You are a medical ninja, it is reasonable to join us. Facing the hopeful eyes of the three, Garashi said with a smile. Although I only graduated half a year ago, I am now a chunin. As a chunin, of course, I can't avoid my responsibilities. Kotoko said to herself as if it was a lifetime ago. Yes, Garashi, you are already a chunin. Garashi continued, and Yumiko-san, you all should have seen my chunin exam, right? All three of them nodded with pride. That was the chunin exam of more than a dozen ninja villages. It was already very good to pass the exam. As for winning the first place in all the ninja villages, that was something they didn't even dare to think about. Even this kind of thing can be raised to the honor of the village itself. Garashi smiled shyly, although it is a bit shameful to say this, but after mastering the Flying Thunder God technique, no one can compare to me in terms of life-saving ability. He didn't say how strong he was. In front of people who care about him, no matter how strong he is, he will be selectively ignored. So, he just needs to say how good he is at escaping. Sure enough, after listening to his explanation, the worried look on their faces immediately eased a lot, but they still seriously warned him. In case of danger, don't be embarrassed to run away. By the way, you must not give up on practicing the Flying Thunder God technique. Also, don't be stubborn. Then he took out a few kunais and handed them over. Anti-mid-eye, if you run into any danger, just break one of these kunais. I'll sense that the technique has disappeared, and I'll use the other kunais to locate you and save you. Don't worry, I won't put myself in danger. Without waiting, Yumiko, where is Sister Yumiko? Why didn't I see her? As expected, Kotoko's attention was diverted. She said with a strange expression, Mesa is probably worried about her troublesome brother. Hospital Square. Yumiko of you know? Just because you said I'm not allowed to go, I can't go? Yumiko. It is precisely because the war is difficult that all of us must step forward bravely. No matter how difficult it is, it's not up to a rookie like you who isn't even a genin to step up. After I apply for early graduation, I will be a genin. Just as Misha was about to go crazy, a familiar voice came from behind her. Sister Misha. Misha was overjoyed. She couldn't be bothered to lecture her brother anymore. I'll teach you a lesson later. However, who would have thought that her younger brother would be even more excited than her and rush out? Senior Garashi. With Garashi's extraordinary memory, even though he had been away from school for half a year, he could still recognize him at a glance. It's Big Xiong. Seeing that Garashi recognized him, De Xiong was even more excited. Senior, you still remember me? Garashi smiled. If I don't even know the members of the club, then I would be neglecting my duties as the club's president. Misa had a strange expression. You know each other? Of course, Garashi-senpai is the pride of our ninja school. De Xiong said proudly. Suddenly his eyes froze. Wait, sister, how do you know Senior? Misa patted her chest and laughed wildly. Because Garashi was brought out by your sister. De Xiong wasn't frightened by someone's neuroticism. Instead he was shocked. So amazing. Misa struck while the iron was hot. If you know it's amazing, then listen to me. Don't think about early graduation anymore. De Xiong glanced at Garashi. Seeing Garashi nod at him, he had no choice but to agree. Okay, I know. Yayoi and the other two who came with them were shocked. Only now did they truly realize Garashi's influence. He didn't even need to say anything. Just a simple action was enough to convince those troublesome little guys. If they waited for their generation to grow up, perhaps Garashi would be able to gain his most loyal followers. Garashi didn't know how much shock his actions had brought to the others. He just took out a kunai and gave it to Misa, then repeated what he said before. Misa nodded emotionally. It's only been a few years and now it's Garashi's turn to protect sister. Deshion looked at them with eager eyes. That was a kunai given to him by his senpai. He really wanted it. If he didn't know that this kunai was related to his safety, he would have tricked his sister into giving it to him. It's almost time to gather. And Yayoi Misa, Nei-sen, I'll be leaving first. Okay, then hurry up and gather. Be careful on the road. Watching Garashi leave, Yayoi sighed. Another war. I hope this time it will end soon. In the square near the east gate, ninjas were everywhere. It was lively and noisy. Garashi, over here. Asma greeted from afar. Garashi quickly walked over. Sorry I'm late. Kurenai waved her hand. It's okay, we just arrived. Asma excitedly told the information he had gathered. Garashi, how many ninjas do you think there are here? Shushi looked around and muttered to himself, 8 to 10,000? Asma nodded. We have 10,000 ninjas on the east line, and 10,000 on the west line. As for the rest of the special forces, each unit has about 500 to 800 ninjas. In total, we have 23,000 ninjas. Garashi wasn't surprised. In the manga, the number of ninjas in the Fourth Shinobi World War was about 80,000. However, this doesn't mean that the number of ninjas in each village was equal. Woodleaf, Yunnan, and Rock Crypsis had relatively more ninjas. Moreover, at that time, the number of ninjas in the Third Raikage battle against 10,000 Rock Crypsis ninjas. Although the Raikage died of exhaustion, at least thousands of Rock Crypsis ninjas were killed. At this time, Orochimaru walked to the front. I'm sorry to have involved everyone in the war again, but this is not something we can choose. The enemy wants to take everything away from us, and the only thing we can do is to protect our homeland with our own strength. Those who agree with me, follow me. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.